I'm the first one to talk. Yes!
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. I was really glad that was the first line of this season because I think we'd all been waiting for this season and this culmination of all the cool stuff we've been doing for the last 10 years. Hey, I'm Matt Hullum.
I'm Miles Luna.
I'm Kerry Shawcross.
Yeah, that's a lot of screens. Monty.
And I'm Bernie Burns.
And I'm Kathleen.
Easter egg.
Easter egg.
You know, I have to point out the inaccuracy of having a Griffball match chronologically in the Red vs. Blue universe as part of the Freelancer Chronicles.
It is a chronological error, and I think the debate we had when we talked about putting in the Griffball stuff here and with York later when he's wearing a Griffball shirt was something along the lines of "fuck it."
Their logic is sound.
I think that came a lot into play, that
Yeah.
bucket line.
There was a lot of writing that was done in the animation studio. I mean, we got used to that when Monty came on board, where when Monty would, write things in terms of choreography and write motivations for everything, but there was a lot of gags written by the animators.
There were, and the crazy thing is we had so many people this year. We already pointed out a couple of Easter eggs in here. There's a ton more in this scene. And we had so many people, and everyone wanted to put in their own Easter egg. It was like Johnny Last Note with the Easter eggs. Everybody's trying to stick, one in after the next guy. And everybody's grabbing comps and trying to. All right, we had the first one of those moments
You
already.
made the mistake of inviting children to this commentary.
Thanks, Kerry.
Matt, why don't you talk to us a little bit how this season is so different, staffing-wise and production-wise, than previous seasons?
I know probably Kathleen can answer that in more detail than I can, but we have a lot of people here, which was kind of crazy.
Right.
When this began, it was just Bernie and Jeff in Bernie's bedroom.
Wow. Bow chicka bow
That's
wow.
another one already. Carrie,
Red
where
versus
was the
baby.
follow-up there?
Hey, we're gonna keep counting these.
All right.
And we added people on one by one, and then all of a sudden we added a bazillion people for season 10.
So is it appropriate to call the team that was working out in the studio, is it appropriate to call them the animators? Because that's what we've always
No.
referred to them as. But
Yeah, not
I mean,
really.
what would you refer to that entire team?
They prefer animator Americans.
I always call them RVB10, Team RVB10, because you had animators, you had compositors, you had lighting renderers, you had technical directors. It's it's really not just the animation team. It's really
Yeah, they did a ton of different stuff. I mean, you look at this entire set that we're in now. This location was all
texture.
all
artists.
created. Corey made this whole set. It didn't exist before.
Yeah, and in previous seasons, like the last two seasons, we just called them Monty.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Bernie, how
right.
did this scene turn out in your head compared to how it is? You wrote it. And I remember I had a picture of what it was going to
Actually,
be.
I did not write this scene. Eddie wrote this scene.
Oh,
Eddie
really?
Eddie did the first draft on this, and then we'd add punch-ups. So I did the first draft of Red vs. Blue Season 10.
I remember that day though. We were like, "What if he's picking a lock and just the whole wall gets blown?" You and I are doing our old school jiving about what would be cool and how a wall gets blown away. You remember that?
Right. I think I wanted to have a scene where York was working on something, getting in, and then they fire the cannon and they cut off half the ship.
Yeah.
And he's balancing on the edge of the ship, trying pinwheeling his arms, trying not to fall into space. But yeah, Eddie wrote the initial scene with the guard and Delta talking, which I thought was important because Delta is the synonymous Freelancer character to me. I mean, Tex is like the bridge between the Blood Gulch Chronicles characters and the Freelancer characters, but to me, Delta's like the guy who's really was the first one to come in from that universe. Much like Caboose is the touchstone for so many people as the Machinima characters.
Absolutely.
Back to Machinima.
That first scene too is great. Just to think about the collaboration of season 10 and this year, like you said, Eddie working on the writing there, and Bernie put in some lines, and then when we were creating that set, we were trying to figure out how that the whole scene would play out, and Shane did a lot of the work animating that. He made up that really cool shot there where York dives out of the way, the wall explodes, and then the camera kind of follows with him and goes back. And then Corey, who made the set, had the initial idea of let's not have York go through the hole immediately, have him catch and hold on to something.
And then didn't Shane come up with ass chair face?
And then we had
Yeah.
we threw in the chair thing hitting him, and then when we were talking to the guy Chris, who did the space battle scenes, we came up with another idea to reuse that guy and have the guy floating on the chair come by later. Spoiler, which comes up in the next episode. So
There
yeah,
should be
man,
a quiz
it's
on all
great.
these names later,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, ass fair chase. Well, I can't
That's
talk.
it.
Ass,
Definitely it.
ass chair face.
Shane was also the person that took the chair when Monty kicked it at
That's
him
right.
for the mocap.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Our first workers' comp claim.
Do you guys remember the first draft? Do you remember where the show started?
It started with, I think, North and Theta, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It was the introduction of Theta and the training sequence.
Yeah.
Which is ended up being episode 5.
Right. Well, we wanted to have, after the first draft, we wanted to have a big battle. Initially in the first draft, it was we wanted to see, now that they have AI, how different are these guys? Like, what happened? So it was like, and to show some passage of time. But we also wanted to have a space battle. Monty and I have talked
Yeah.
about that for years and years. And you guys can talk about the awesome exterior space stuff that was made by the team, a whole different team than here at the studio. But Monty and I wanted to always talk about having a big space battle at some point. Then we wanted to kind of start with a big bang. And then we thought, why don't we have the training sequence in the middle of a battle, like the director's doing 2 things at once? But
There was a lot of like shuffling of pieces around. We had all these pieces, and we were like, maybe this should be happening at the same time of this, because there's so much we wanted to get across. There were so many points we wanted to make.
and that's always happened too. Like, do you remember from season 9, we made a trailer which was a scene from the movie, and the scene actually, because when we started shifting stuff around, the chronology of that scene no longer made sense for the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the scene overall in terms of getting off the Pelican and main surgery and all that. And then also we threw in a bunch of shots at the end of the trailer that was just like an action montage. And everyone got really hung up on all those shots and wanted to see how each and every single one of those shots played out in Season 9. And some of those shots never came to fruition as a scene either.
Every time you say the word fruition,
Oh, look at this.
Fruition,
Look
fruition.
at
it
this.
makes me think of O'Malley. Yeah.
This is one of my
Look at all this
favorite
junk.
stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of space, that looks awesome.
This was just
Hey,
incredible.
it's like Halo or
Hey,
something.
ask your face.
So we just got so lucky
Yeah.
with this guy. He calls himself Free Space. That's like his online handle, and he lives in Romania, or he just moved to the UK from Romania, and he's just super talented. He and his wife do basically everything in terms of animation, texturing, modeling, camera work, effects work. I mean, he's just like, it runs the gamut of everything. And we first found him. He had posted a StarCraft kind of fan-made trailer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like how you found me. Pretty much.
It is. It's very similar. Yeah.
Well, that's how I justify all my surfing in the office. Is I have to hire one, or recommend to hire one stellar person every year. Found Michael on Reddit, Monty on game trailers, and I saw that Free Space, he had made this StarCraft animation. I took it to Matt and showed it to him, and Matt contacted him and hired him.
Look at all that.
We were very fortunate, and even though
Yeah.
he was like moving on to like a new project, when we had some new stuff, he still took it up and ran with it, right?
Yeah, he had one project where we were trying to get started back in November or something, I think. And then he had something come up and he was trying to finish another show, and so he couldn't take our thing, and we thought, oh man, we're going to have to find another solution. But
Doing all
he
this
became
while he's
free.
getting other jobs and getting married and going on
that's right.
honeymoons.
During this, he got married. He moved to a different country, immigrated to a different country. And I got a new job at a
He was
huge
fleeing the
effects house.
authorities.
He was fleeing the authorities.
Hey man, I moved to a new apartment, so there's that.
We've
I
all
made
we've all
sacrifices
we've all
too.
got our cross to bear.
Ah, this scene.
Yeah.
This is
Oh, no,
this
what's
is one of
going
our
on?
first outtakes right here.
Oh,
See
yeah,
just a hint
you
down
can still
there
see
in
a
the
little
bottom.
bit.
Since we
Yeah,
have
you can see it.
2.5 hours of commentary, we could actually do a little bit of overhead. So, cast here is CT is played by Samantha Ireland. South is played by Shayna Merlin. That's Pilot Lee Eddy. Love Lee Eddy.
She's the best.
Behind her is Carolina, who is played by the lovely Jen Brown. And then York is played by Mr. Sean Dugan, and North is played by John Erler, local comedy legend here. And Matt, we've worked with Sean, the voice actor for York. Delta's played by Mark Bellman, my brother-in-law, actually. But we worked with Sean for a long time. He was in our first movie.
Yeah, I've actually known Sean longer than anybody else associated with Rooster Teeth. I met Sean.
Sean and Joel.
Yeah, I
Love
met Sean and Joel when I was a freshman at UT, and I then met you like right after that.
Yep.
And Sean and Joel were starred in the movie that Bernie and I made when we were when I was a
It was
junior.
our first cameo, by the way, by the Smosh guys.
Yeah, yeah,
This scene was animated by Dustin,
that's right.
the
yeah.
shotgun stuff.
Dustin also did all of Theta.
That's
The
right.
Smosh guys
yeah,
were
Dustin
great,
did a
man.
great job with
Smosh
Theta.
guys are always great, yeah.
They just like anytime we needed anything, we would call them up, and no matter how busy they were, it was like, "Yep, cool, we're on it." and they would always knock something out and throw in some great ad libs.
This episode was the beginning.
Hammer time.
For a lot of people. Wash became so many people's favorite character, and it was just seeing him in his light-hearted silliness before the whole Epsilon thing was just so awesome. I love you, Shannon McCormick.
Yeah, the floaty scene.
That was one of our first unintentional blooper of the season. We released the episode online. It didn't say artificial; it said artifical. Gravity is fickle in
We
space.
don't have time for spelling. We just gotta
We really
get stuff
don't.
done.
They say that language evolves over time.
Yeah.
It's just 500 years in the future, so.
Eyes
got-
are
they've
eyes
got-
are really expensive in the future.
Yeah.
They've got imps and artificial gravity in the future.
And Monty, this is pretty much all you choreography-wise, right?
Yep.
That's why it's so
I love the shot there. It's the best.
Me too.
Flying and posing
like a
and
space treadmill.
spinning around.
You just
Everyone's
run on
fucking
Warthog. Shut up,
Spider-Man.
Miles.
There we go.
I want a space treadmill.
Yeah, we really wanted to start off the season with a bang, and we looked at the design of kind of season 9 where we had 4 really huge episodes in terms of just action and just fun stuff and just going nuts, and so we wanted to do that again this year. So that's why we moved all that space stuff up to the front, and then we were talking and thought we can't do just the space stuff. We've got to have a crazy, insane Monty action. Kung Fu, insane hand-to-hand combat battle, and I thought you really pulled out all the stops for that one.
Plus, we've been how many fights we got this year? Jesus Christ.
There's a lot.
It's just like more of more.
More of
More
more.
better.
Season
Great
10,
band name.
more of more.
More and more.
The Morist.
The more.
Oh, what's that?
There's our little hint.
Hologram.
Yeah, it was always a choice, Monty. The equipment was such an important part of the freelancer mythology, and
I got really excited about that. It makes me think of just like superpowers essentially for these guys.
well, we didn't anticipate how important equipment would become to the Halo franchise with
I know,
Reach.
right?
Yeah.
And it was like we were just kind of, the freelancer backstory with Tex in the Blood Gold Chronicles started as a way to explain why there's invisibility, and where that stuff would come from. And back then there was only invisibility and overshield, and that was it. And so we had this little organization that kind of developed that equipment. That's really the thing behind Project Freelancer, is the weird offshoot into the quote-unquote Halo universe, is that this was supposedly the group that invented equipment and made equipment, and that was our way of explaining it, in our own stupid RBB universe way. But of course, that now has the Halo mythology has actually incorporated that, where all that stuff comes from. But that's where we originally started with Project Freelancer, and then developed the whole AI thing and the different storylines that started in Reconstruction, season 6.
Love it.
Gotta have our Tejano.
Oh yeah.
That is the best line.
With the Warthog flying in like that and the Tejano music, I think one of the things about this season, having so many people working on it and so many people adding ideas and writing and things like that, is we wanted to kind of get every single one of those callbacks in, but not go overboard. And it would have been really easy to just make every single scene a reference or a callback or something. But I feel like we did a pretty good job of incorporating that stuff along the way where it was organic to do it and not getting too bogged down in nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia.
Just want to point out that our best of DVD is now on street sales everywhere.
So go watch that instead.
It's full of all the lame callbacks that was just referencing.
That's right.
Best callbacks ever.
Anybody gonna finish that?
No. Please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't.
I almost
I think
did, but I
we
covered
finished
my
it, we
mouth.
finished it.
Good. God damn it.
Yeah, this was always a tough map to shoot on just because of the
lighting,
lighting
yeah,
on
it's
it.
tough.
It's either
Yeah.
just pure sunset or, dark patches.
This scene also, I was just thinking, was one of our first instances of, even though we had a very big script, it was 135 pages, I think was the initial working draft.
Yeah. And some of the end scenes were fight scene.
Yeah.
We still
Insert
had
5 minutes in.
we still had to add stuff along the way, because once you start starting to release episodes and there's a flow to that, you realize sometimes you need a little bit more character development on some guys here, or do you have to shift scenes around? And you need to fill in gaps that won't make sense in the story. And this is one of the first scenes that I think we actually, Bernie, you wrote this scene like a couple days before it came out because we realized we needed it to refresh everybody's memory for the context of what the Reds and Blues were trying to achieve with Carolina.
Yeah, it's we could do a primer, I guess, at the beginning of every season, but I've always had the philosophy too when it comes to the narrative and the characters and the plot that it's all available online. So if people don't understand, they can just go watch it. And I mean, Monty and I read the Red versus Blue wiki, I think, more than two people on the planet, to catch up ourselves. But I've always had the feeling of, we could make this show such that you can watch an episode and it's standalone, and then at the end of every episode, everything resets back to the way it was, and you can just pick it up and it's kind of bite-sized. But I don't know, it's like, why do that? That's the way they do it on television and in movies. Why not make it for people who are going to invest in it? Why write a show for the people who don't watch it? That's what I always think.
Well, South's got attitude there.
Yeah,
She's like, hey, girl.
I think this entire scene was mocapped and animated by Harley.
Dortz, yeah.
We had a few women on the RVB animation crew. And
It was helpful, too, because I remember when Shane did
like
his
that
first
show.
pass as acting Carolina, and he'd always kept his legs spread open.
Yeah.
It's the little touches.
If
a
it's
little
one of the
touches.
female freelancers to do it, it'd probably be Carolina. Just to be fair. I love the use of the of York's heroic music from season 9 in this scene. I
Yeah.
thought that was a great repurposing of it.
had to cut it off there.
Man, one of the things
damn
we
it,
never had
Georgia.
before, like because of the new rendering here, is the actual reflection in the visor. Like we never really used that, and it really makes them pop. If you get these face shots of them, and then you just look up
3.
close.
It literally makes me nervous every time I see the reflections in the visor. Just because we didn't have to deal with it for years and years, and every time I see an animation scene and I see the reflection, I'm like, uh-oh. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
I remember one time you talking about being worried that you guys would see the machinima cameraman because you thought Halo 3
Yeah.
would have the real-time reflections.
Reflections in Halo 3 are really good.
They're really good, but it's one of those things where when you're working with a game, if they had to re-render the entire environment in somebody's visor, they're just not going to do it for resource purposes. So a lot of the reflections in the game visors are just faked.
Yep.
Like I think we discovered that on Foundry in one of the episodes we were shooting, is that it's just kind of like a still frame of a Foundry environment, no matter where you are or which direction you're looking.
Yeah. And then we adopted that
Yeah.
for
So-
animation.
So it's completely accurate.
Well, it's one of those things where if you change it too much, it kind of changes the feeling of the aesthetic, and that doesn't feel natural. So
Yeah.
you use the same kind of cheats, and when you use the same kind of cheats, it fits in with what people expect.
But at the same time, doing the freelancer timeline lets us do really cool stuff when we want to, and not have to be too consistent to the game. When that was one of the reasons for season 9 and season 10 to like up the animation team and do the really high quality rendering we're doing. Like that space junkyard, I don't think you'll ever see it in any game. That is just way too much. Like the density of polygons in this season makes me want to cry.
So we finally figured out what it takes.
It's density of polygons. That gets to his soft spot.
And this is the beginning of little Epsilon Church. That's a little hologram. Really cool looking effects. Really kind of a pain in the ass to do for every shot that he's in.
Yeah, and Miles shot probably 90% of the machinima this season. I mean, at
Yeah.
this point, I mean, it's taking
And
over
wrote
at this
a lot
point
of it,
pretty
too.
much, right?
Yeah,
right
this
here.
is the last machinima sequence when Caboose, Sarge, and Church have their little side conversation was the first thing I machinimated for the season. And then this was the first episode, like machinima episode that I did in its entirety. And I was super excited about it and was also incredibly nervous that it was going to turn out like shit. But it didn't look too much like shit. It looks all right. I mean, look at that fan. That's
I like
some
the
artsy
I like the
shots right
framing of
there.
this. Yeah, the framing of this shot is really good.
I've always loved the Halo, like, slow stroll away, that animation. I don't know what it is.
I hate that.
That's a cool
no,
thing.
No,
I
no,
hate
no, no,
it.
no, 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 no. I wasn't gonna say that.
Wow, this is
I
going
hate. I
fucking
hate.
fast.
I hated that filming out that fan because I found out that that bridge isn't always down. It's something that you shoot and then it will fall down. So it's not like a permanent part of the set. It's like, I guess, an optional part. I
So
don't know
it
what you
sounds
call
like we
it.
hired a machinima director who has never played Halo.
Shut up.
That's
I'm getting
getting like
to the point.
Halo
I'm getting to
2.
the point. The problem was when you stand on
Easter
that
egg
thing,
right there.
the characters will constantly slide in one direction. They will never stand still. So after every couple of sentences, I had to constantly reset Wash and Carolina because they kept sliding. And that's the end of my story.
Yeah, well, boo-hoo, new kid. I don't know what to tell you. Gotta remember in Halo 2, the Warthog would just like constantly move sideways. I love Counselor because Counselor was the first full face character that we ever saw.
That's
well,
right.
besides Vic, but Vic was not like fully
Yeah.
animated.
Yeah.
But Counselor to me is like if you
Love
look
that shot.
at just
Yeah.
how things have moved.
Yeah, his facial animations this season were incredible.
By the way, I want to point out something. So I did not name that ship. That was Matt. Did you name that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, well, Charon was the kind of fictional.
Cryogenics company.
Yeah, like corporate military industrial company
The
that
man.
we've been using for supporting whoever the other side is.
This shot is the reason to do space battles.
Yeah.
These lateral
This is straight out of pirate movies.
yeah
Well, the books are so heavy. The Halo books are so heavy on naval battles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I just realized Mother of Invention kind of looks like a giant Halo 1 pistol.
I swear that's
It does.
that's probably the design. Like all the ships look like giant guns.
I mean, it is like the strongest gun ever.
Monty, you
man.
designed Mother of Invention, didn't you?
well, no, I mean that's like the Halo 1 frigate. I did put like the logos on it and what you named it.
And then for this year, we had a guy named Rich Mason.
Yeah.
Right. And he was
Right.
in the UK, and he rebuilt it for us from the ground up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, the naming of the ships is always fun because Halo ships have such kind of verbose names. I mean, they're like Forward Unto Dawn,
Yeah,
Pillar
yeah.
of Autumn.
I
so-
did put the RT-636 on there though.
Right,
Nice.
right. That's a little Easter egg for us personally.
Did Staff of Sharon have any funny number?
It does. It has our old office.
16,
on Congress.
19B.
Yeah.
So do you know guys know why it's called Mother of Invention? Have I ever talked to anybody about that?
I don't think
I know
so.
the phrase, but
Yeah, so
Wait,
he
nutshot. Oh yeah. Yank those nuts.
in those opening quotes in season 6, director has a quote where he always talks about what is doing what is necessary, and so it's a callback to that quote, which is necessity is the mother of invention, and so the justification in a way on the side of the ship there, justification for everything that's awesome.
I still wish we could have kept. See, the original that grappling hook to the nut shot was actually a plunger.
That's right.
I wish I.
Well, like a suction cup dart?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was a suction
yeah. I built Shane a suction cup to put onto that.
Why not a pair of chattering teeth? Like in the Goonies that grabs on.
Nico could have done the score for that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Right, you could give us a sound effect for it.
When I finally saw the final render of that shot, I got worried because I didn't know that the plunger was supposed to be temporary, and I thought that something like rendered wrong or something. I was like, "No, guys, it's supposed to be a plunger. We have to go back."
We have to go back.
We did have that problem a few times this year, Carrie. It seems like because we did so much stuff where Monty and Shane would do. I'm going to call it previs, but it was more elaborate than previs. They would do a fully fleshed out animation scene, but then the way our pipeline worked, it had to go through another whole animation process where it would be taken and transferred to some other software and kind of redone. And in that process, we often did switch out a lot of props. And we switched out the environment or added in the environment for the first time because a lot of times Monty will just animate with a big empty room with checkerboard pattern on
yeah,
it.
primitives.
And there's also a path
And-
somewhere in there where Shane would add on funny hats to the
Shane would add on
characters.
funny hats, or just some other. He would a meme face or
Yeah.
you mad bro or something. He was always sticking something in there, and there was always we were always like hiring new people, so there was always somebody who would come up and go, "This shot is missing the you mad bro image. I think we need to go and stop, make sure this doesn't get released until we get that in." I was like, "No, dude, that's don't worry about it."
But before we get too far away from it, the mother of invention, also, I always like the fact that the initials of the ship are moi, which is like the me,
Yeah,
French
yeah.
for me, which is like called the arrogance of the director as well.
Nico would like that too.
And we got in a debate online, I forget where it was, but somebody was asking, like, why is it called Project Freelancer if they all work for the director? Like, they're not freelance agents, which is how kind of text was introduced. Well, it was supposed to indicate, Project Freelancer was supposed to indicate that this is outside of the UNSC. Like, the project is
Oh wait.
like an independent project.
This shot. I was like, man, I need 20 seconds of nuts right at the head of this episode.
That's 4. You're right. Now enough.
If somebody can just take that and loop it a couple times, please.
This scene definitely changed a lot in animation. They really punched up the dick.
Yeah,
jokes.
I just looked at the script. I'm like, I gotta make this all about his nuts.
But I think honestly, it was really great because the Freelancer storyline has been so dramatic and so action heavy for so long. To get a dick joke in the Freelancer storyline was something that was really different.
An
and
implied dick joke. Let's be
great.
clear.
But you wouldn't believe what it can do. Besides, you better get used to it. You're gonna have one of your own soon enough.
Give me a break.
It's all right,
I
David.
mean, you got to keep in mind that we showed these characters when they were all split up. There's our first look at Theta right there.
Theta's the best.
And a lot of these characters are designed on a couple of shots that were in reconstruction and some voices that we had in reconstruction as well when the meta is running around and we have all the voices talking to the meta and talking to Delta. We were designing all the characters back then. In fact, the design for Sigma was locked in at that point in time. And then we didn't actually have Theta labeled at that point as being this character,
Right.
but the
He's
young
in there.
child character.
Yeah, we referred to that image so often. The season 6 image of the.
There's
the
two of
AIs.
them. There's one on Zanzibar.
Yep.
And then there's one in the very end, the last episode, when
The meta. And
Alpha, takes over the meta.
And when we were talking about Alpha or Epsilon appearing there in all those scenes, and all those effects are actually taken from the files that Nathan and I made during season 6. And at the time, we were just kind of rushed and getting out and thought, well, we'll never have to use this again. So let's just do any kind of like sloppy thing we want to. And lo and behold, here we are using it 4.5 years later.
Yeah,
And
I lived in that project for a while.
I felt sorry for Carrie every time there was an AI scene on the board.
Yeah, you did a lot of the AI stuff, right?
Yes, that's my answer to that. Yeah, we I went through along with several other people and kind of updated the AIs this season and took what was I think it was called No Face Guy in season 6 and changed him to
Yeah.
I think that was actually Sigma. No, that was
Face
another one.
Guy.
Yeah, there's just a layer and there's No Face Guy.
Astro face and no face guy. Yeah, remember the quiz?
I think your R&D on Sigma was fantastic, Carrie. I mean,
thank you.
Really,
Dude, Sigma looks awesome.
really brought it up.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
then we had a really cool piece of concept art from Mental
Mental
Fusion
Fusion,
from the
yeah.
website that was very inspiring to all of us here.
Yeah.
And also, of course, as we have, it was the first time we're saying it, but the voice of Sigma was played by Elijah Wood, so we all wanted to make sure that, I mean, this character was important in the storyline, obviously, but then there was a lot more reasons to make it as awesome as it possibly could be. But I was going to say, we showed the freelancers initially as this broken up group and who were fighting each other, and some of them had turned sides, like Wyoming was on one side and New York was on the other. And so we had to show where they came from. And, we could have just showed how they worked great as a unit together and just had a lot of battle sequences where they worked in time and they're like sync and all that stuff. But it was also important that the way you show that, connection between people is the camaraderie that comes with that group. Because I think we've all
That's
been in
right.
groups before where it's like, you're just so isolated and working hard together, and you just form those bonds that you don't form in any other way.
I think one of my favorite things that I noticed about the freelancers when they were off duty or whatever is North and York. Shut up. It's 5. Is North and
I'll
York.
mark it.
Like one of the things that's is really subtle is that North is constantly finishing York's sentences. Like that happens like 2 or 3 times or something. It's just a couple times, but I noticed it every single time. I was like, oh, that's such a cool little neat thing.
Neat? Did you just say neat? I'm sorry.
Carrie, please tell Kathleen to shut up.
This scene's a great example of how I had one thing clear in my head when I was writing, because I wrote this scene, and I had something clear in my head, and how the animators just took it to a totally different level. Like, I had the turrets moving on tracks that were, like, just in the ceiling. Like, they came down out of the ceiling, and they were moving around. And then the animators added this, like, ring mechanism.
Yeah, well, because when I built the previs, I was like, man, having them on the ceiling would put them like way up there because the room is huge.
Yeah.
And I loved how they had the lights red and blue.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
So many little touches.
Yeah.
She's been really fun. And the scene continued to evolve in terms of the action stuff. I think the narrative, the dialogue, all that stuff, they stuck almost exactly to what you had done, right, Monty?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then
Just more
the-
nuts.
Just more nuts. And the action stuff was basically all of it was there, but because the room was so different in scale from what we did last year with season 9, and you were using the season 9
Training room.
training room.
Yep.
When we
Look
started.
at the difference. Look at the difference
It's
between
amazing.
this room and the one we used when the text fight last year. Man, we owe a lot of that to Corey.
Yeah, Corey did a tremendous job on this set and all the other sets in the show. I think he created every single one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
By the way, that leaderboard in the background, every time that thing appeared for a second in a shot, it was like a week-long discussion of, all right, do we have this one right? Who's where?
What do those numbers mean?
You said Maine had been through here, right? Well, yeah, but that was ages ago.
Deciding on the color of Carolina in the machinima scenes was tough. I mean, this one's a weird lighting because you can see like Tucker kind of looks like Carolina in this particular lighting, but yeah, because we had debates over whether Carolina was light blue or aqua.
I panicked because I was looking at an episode of season 9 while I was working on season 10, and during the highway chase scene, because of the lighting, she looked like Church's color, and I had a mini panic attack. It was while we were making this episode too, and I went back and had to look at all the other references we had of her. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, we did that a lot with Tucker during the seasons too.
Yeah, I remember in season 8 when we were first figuring this stuff out that we really realized that the characters changed their colors so much depending on the map they're on.
Yeah.
Like when we were making the avalanche scenes in season 8, we basically made Tex blue because in avalanche black turns out to be blue with the lighting on avalanche.
There are some scenes this season that are completely machinima, but they think like, why was Sarge colored like donut?
Yeah,
Right.
that was the last
Yeah.
episode. Yeah.
There's nothing different about him at all. Same color.
It's all contextual. It's
Yeah.
so bizarre. The scene is really green, by the way.
Yeah.
Carolina is my favorite character to do machinima with because her visor shows so much emotion. If you look up, she has sad or concerned or surprised eyes, but if you look down, all of a sudden she's angry and pissed off, and that's the greatest thing in the world.
That's why Caboose's helmet is so perfect, just vacant.
Yes.
It's like wide-eyed and vacant.
Like she aims her gun and just looks super pissed here in like a few seconds.
So how do we show her happy?
What do you mean happy?
Yeah, Carolina's never happy.
That emotion doesn't exist for her.
That's in the spin-off.
Coming this winter.
Carrie just spilled soda on his forehead. I'm not sure how that happened.
How?
I should point out that about half the people in this room right now are wearing pajamas because everyone's been working around the clock.
It's been a really
Speaking of that fuck it
slumber
mentality, I was like, pants.
What are you going to do? So, Kathleen, we're on a machinima scene now, but can you talk to us a little bit about the process of going from on the page and then we go record everything and then how it ends up on the screen?
Yeah, sure. That was the thing that I brought to the table for season 10 was basically taking a pipeline that I've worked in the past for, say, feature animation, where you take all the voiceover actors, and we went to a really nice studio here in Austin, recorded everything because we had the script up front, which was fantastic, and then start cutting. Cutting the sequences out and sending it. Oh, wait, there's the mustache. Is that Mario up front there?
Hello.
Sorry. It's Mario.
What's everybody looking at?
Elijah Wood's debut was overshadowed by a mustache.
That stash.
We should have just given him a mustache.
Sigma
dude,
should've-
Fire stash.
Fire stash. Season 11, Fire Stash.
Skateboarding.
And actually, I'll just point. We actually utilized a studio that I'd worked with to do the facial animation. We do have we have a lot of good talent here that we actually tapped into, but for the sake of time, we had to kind of utilize a secondary studio to do all the facial, and I think they did a really good job. I think I think that our team here could probably have done it if we had the time.
Well, we did end up doing a few things there
Yeah.
at the end, and well, we can talk about them once we get to those scenes. But I was really impressed with a couple of the guys and what they were able to accomplish on really detailed facial animation stuff.
And emotion stuff, yeah.
There was so much buzz around this episode because of how many helmetless freelancers
Yes.
are in it.
Yeah.
Wyoming, Wash. There were so many people tried to CSI that shot of Sigma in Maine. They're like, okay, brighten, enhance, zoom. Oh, it kind of looks like he has a face.
Yeah. This was another scene that was it was confusing to try to remember who was in it and who wasn't because it was moved around in the script a lot. I can't remember. We had sequence numbers for every single scene, every single sequence, and they made no sense whatsoever by the time we actually got into it because we moved them around so many times. I think this scene actually
This was
it was originally like
12?
in episode 12, yeah. And so we moved it way up, and in doing that, we had to go change around a couple of characters. I think Wyoming was actually he was out of the scene and then back into it a couple times to because we were trying to figure out would he be here or would he already be at Longshore with Blue.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we also had a thing with CT. CT appeared in this scene at one point.
Yep, because this was.
And it was like really early and kind of contextualized differently. And then we were trying to figure out, is this the appropriate way to introduce Sigma?
Man, Sigma has awesomely creepy eyes.
He does.
Just
And
like
an
it's
awesome
modeled.
voice.
The face is modeled after Elijah. So I mean, with Elijah having those eyes that he has, and just taking them from blue to red, makes it awesome.
The was it Nathan that gave him that
Easter egg there, too.
creepy voice
Secondary
echo thing?
voice.
Yeah, Nathan
was
came up
such
with
a
all the
cool
sound
touch.
design.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and we also had another guy. Carrie definitely did the yeoman's at work on Sigma, and we had another guy that we brought in, Martin Coven, who was actually a former ILM guy, and did a lot of the flame work with Carrie.
Ugly side. Oh, come on, Karen.
You know, and that scene was important too because when we first started talking about the concept of the meta, that name is actually based in, I guess, going back before Halo, like Bungie AI lore, which is the 4 stages of awareness of an AI. And the meta stability one is where the AI thinks it's a human or is considered to be a human. It reaches that stage, which nothing reaches. No AI has ever reached theirs before going rampant. But so that's what the meta is based on, is basically Sigma's idea that he can build himself back up to a person. And that was the best. We didn't like overtly say that, but if you went up and looked, I didn't see any posts about it, but nobody looked up. But if you look at the Halo Wikia, you can actually look up all those stages of
Yes, you
rampancy.
can. And we covered them in that scene. I think the text is very small and how it ended up, but text from that Halo Wiki, I think, actually appears on the screen in the classroom there.
Yeah.
And also, some of Counselor's lines are taken directly from that kind of stuff as well. Talking about the cognitive. What is the phrase there for the separation of your cognition from your own brain? There's a specific phrase they have for it, and I can't remember now. But he says it at some point in the beginning of that scene. My cognition is definitely separated from my brain at the moment. I think Miles and Carrie and I are probably on an hour sleep in the last 2.5 days.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And,
That's a shared hour.
and
to ration it out.
yeah, Monty had one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Monty. 60-hour day.
I had a 60-hour day a few days ago,
Oh, you make me sick.
and then I did a 50-hour day right after that.
Wow.
It was awesome.
So Monty's heart is going to give out at the end of this commentary.
Yeah.
So cherish every word
Yeah.
he says.
This is it, guys.
There was a while ago. I was just lying on the floor in the studio. Just Carrie was like, "Well, it's a good thing we're done."
Yeah.
I
Juan, you finished your animation, right?
I actually woke up Monty towards the end of his 60-hour day. You never see Monty asleep. It is like catching a mythical creature in the forest, like a sighting of a unicorn or Bigfoot, to see Monty asleep. And I ran into the warehouse because I had an idea for a shot that I was like, we've been trying to come up with. And I like clapped my hands really loud and I was like, Monty, I got it. And I look over and he goes, ah! It's like, shit, I woke Monty up. I didn't know that was possible.
All right then.
One of my favorite things to do this season was getting to mess with the enormous library of Red vs. Blue music that we have.
Yeah.
From Nico and Trocadero, Jeff, all that stuff. And this scene I had a lot of fun with because there's a track called Nightmare on the Ghosts That Linger album.
I'm just going to interrupt you because I
Go
thought
for
this
it.
was a really fun,
this is
fun
awesome.
transition.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to birds.
Shane did this. This was great.
Shout out to birds.
Going with the
milk cartons.
the
Milk
birds
cartons.
from
This is one of those
Halo
instances
3
where
to animation.
Shane's
I like the leg.
Shane's passes made it in, which is the milk carton.
It gives you a little peek into how he thinks. There we go.
And Taylor did a bunch of the props, I think, that are floating around in the water as well.
I love Shane's acting. It's so like large.
is.
Like the guy's like air humping just right there.
are entrusted to our programs as a privilege, not as a right.
It was bringing one of these back in. We had a couple of these in the original script, and it's like you didn't want to do too many of
Yeah.
them.
I think we had three this time, right?
Mankind has the opportunity
And I really liked
only to prove
this. There's a little mini story there that goes on with Chairman. If you follow it, well, he's actually not actually Chairman
No,
when we start, which is I thought was really cool.
he's not. Yeah.
And you get to see a little bit of him and kind of give you a little bit more insight into who he is. He's this kind of like, kind of power-craving politician in some way. Like you see him move up the ranks,
Right.
and it's very subtle, just like he is. but you get a sense of his progression, and then you think ahead to, in terms of the chronology to where he is in season 6. It's just, it's fun to see that character fleshed out just through voiceover.
And he's you see him laying the groundwork for going after the director.
Bernie, do Spartans float? Cause
What's that?
like he's either standing in 4 feet of water or he's floating somehow.
Anybody who's played Halo knows they do not float, but he's standing on a pylon right under the water there.
I guess so.
That rised up somehow when he needed it to.
Our first Bane.
I'm gonna start a separate list for Bane. Hang on.
So how much of this set is left over from season 9, the one that Seb built?
This is actually, I think, mostly Seb's work. This is one of the few that Corey opened up and said, "Yeah, this looks pretty good." I want to say Corey and Taylor redid all the textures.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
the textures were always brought up, high res.
Yeah, but the geometry, I think, was the original, right?
Yes. Yeah.
She doesn't have an AI sir.
Carolina has a great face. Shout out to Lake Eyes.
Yeah, no kidding. Kate.
Based on
Look at those
Dogger,
lips. Look at those lips. Yeah.
And then York was entirely generated. That's
right.
That's not based. York's not based on anybody.
York's hot.
Yeah.
And
Looks a lot like me. Just saying.
Maine is not based on anybody. Wyoming is not based on anybody.
Wait.
regardless of
Well,
who it
actually,
is.
No,
Wyoming
Wyoming
is
is
actually
Matt.
based on me.
Yeah. Oh, is he?
Yeah, it's my face.
It's
Yeah.
Matt plus mustache.
And Brandon. And Barbara was
Barbara was
girly. We
girly,
just missed,
the blonde.
The blonde, yep.
See, Matt, now you know the mustache. It'll work.
It'll work.
Whenever you want to pull it
Powerful
out, it's
disguise.
gonna work.
I mean, when you look up there, you don't see the face. All you see is mustache. That's it.
We actually talked about it at one point. We didn't get time to do it, but we wanted to make it so that he didn't actually talk, but his mustache just kind of bobbed up and down. It would have been the best thing ever.
Mustache is like Wyoming Sigma. Like Wyoming isn't in control of
I
itself.
thought it would
It's
be
the
great the
mustache.
way like Omega could transfer through the radio if there was another AI that could transfer through mustaches.
The crazy thing is, if you get down, and then there's North is based on Patrick Dickinson. That's Griffin's brother, and Griffin
Is
is
South.
based on South. So we wanted a
Or
brother.
South is based on
When we modeled Griffin, we based her on South.
Yeah, right.
Worked out well. Yeah, and then
she
so
has
we
a
wanted
lot of polygons.
We wanted a brother and sister team, because of the twins.
This scene was actually acted out by Chris and I.
Oh, this was
Yeah,
hilarious.
and
yeah.
this was also it was acted out by you
Carrie
and Chris
was there
and,
with
and
the
Greg
helmet.
did the
Yeah.
previs.
Oh yeah.
And every piece of Carrie had food in his hand, and every cut was a different piece of food. So they actually animated it with different pieces of
Can we
food.
please give credit to whoever made the crazy straw
That was
now?
that was
Taylor.
Taylor. Taylor really latched on to the idea that Washington just used to be a big goofball before he had his
Right.
whole surgery scene, and kind of went nutso. And she was always coming to me and saying, "Can I put a silly straw in? Can I put a rubber duck in the background? Can I do this?" And we did most of them.
I think at one point the silly straw was in contest, and it was everybody started freaking out
The
around the
banana's
studio.
my favorite because that's what Carrie actually had in his hand when he was.
Yeah, we just grabbed stuff that was around.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
Happened to
we
be
had
a banana
yeah,
nearby.
we had a stocked kitchen that day.
That day. Something you want to tell us, Carrie?
We go through a lot of caffeine here.
Yeah.
There are days in between sometimes.
But the crazy thing when you think about like the face models and then the animators who do the acting and then the voice actors who do the voice acting, it's just crazy how many people go into one character.
Yeah.
If you look at Tex in particular, it's voiced by Kathleen.
Yeah.
Written by the writing team. The face model, there's no face model for Tex, but the acting is done by the animators. And then we have a separate actress who plays the other incarnation. I mean, it's like 5 or 6 people that go into making one character.
I
for the
did.
performance
I did
of it.
at times
true.
go to Harley and go to Dustin with like primers on how each person like kind of walks and moves and such. Having worked on Tex since season 8, it's like I had a lot to say, especially because Kathleen and I had a lot of conversations about how she moves, and I had to transfer all that knowledge into like the other animators in order for them to do it right. Like York being like the cowboy guy, and
Oh man, I remember when we were first starting season 8, how many conversations we had about the fighting style and just the physicality of each character, and really defined how those characters moved back then. And I think Monty, you've done a great job of keeping that consistent and carrying those themes over.
Yeah, I think so. And between Tex and Carolina, they have
She-
they're both such badass,
Yeah.
but they both have a different style of fighting.
Yeah, and in terms of writing the characters also,
Yeah.
I would say not just the actors, the animators, the voice actors, all that, but also the music has played a big part of it.
Right.
And Jeff Williams and Nico both have done a great job. I think they've written themes for the characters, and you really have been able to zero in on their personality through those themes, and have really used them in a targeted way in trying to bring out their emotions, and I think seeing them kind of evolve and grow through that.
One of the really fun things we did for this season was we had it wasn't the whole script because the script changed over the course of production as it tends to do.
I have to say something about that in a second, but go ahead.
But this was the first time we had the whole script done before we even shot the first episode. And we got all the actors in from all over the country. I think we had every single person except for Shayna, who plays South, couldn't be there because of a prior commitment. And we did a huge table read. And that last scene in which Pilot confronts Delta and won't let him on the ship, that was one of the earlier scenes in the first draft when they were headed to the battle, which happened earlier. And that was the moment where seeing them all in the same room reading it together. That's when I knew it was going to work. I had a really great feeling about it. Them just reading that.
I took that dialogue and started making the show like right away after that.
That particular scene?
The whole like that, whatever scene I could make like that, I felt like I could do.
We did have a ton of scenes from Monty early on. The one I remember especially was the beginning of episode 10 that were animated, but the audio was all, this big reverby audio from the big room recording where we had all been in there. And I got so used to listening to it recorded that way that it was kind of disconcerting when we actually recorded it, the right way, the high quality version in the studio, and switched it out. This is one of those scenes that I think Shane did a lot of the animation here for the guys, sitting in the chairs, and everyone had their legs spread wide open.
Yeah. Suits get hot, man.
I guess so.
What's the plan? Well, we know they're ready for us. I figure that they have to.
Shane's acting translates really well onto Pilot, especially. I don't know, like that.
Yeah.
Really smarmy, like. Oh, look at Wash.
Yeah.
I remember every time Shane did something for the pilot, he would to get to the proper sitting position or whatever, he would sit on this series of chairs and tables that were just kind of stacked haphazardly so he could get into the right position, and I always thought he was gonna die.
I love that little run away from Wash in that scene. It's so subtle, but he just looks so scared. He looks like he's about to shit his pants.
He probably did.
I think I'm gonna be sick. Supposed to eliminate all weight. You could probably throw up in your helmet and it would take care of it for you. Yeah, you should test that, Wash. You two are assholes.
It's so strange because I think of Shannon still as being a new cast member, but he's been in 5 seasons.
Well, you know what he pointed out to me on his last recording? We were like, "Hey, man, cool, that's really awesome." Shane just walked in very slowly.
Shane tried to walk in subtly and stop the entire thing dead. I love it. Hey, Shane, what's up?
He's gonna get murdered.
Yeah, last time Shane was over, we recorded his last couple lines, and he pointed out he actually started before season 5.
Yeah.
In the miniseries, so he's now been in more than 50% of Red vs. Blue.
Yeah.
Confidence is one thing, but it is always prudent to prepare for failure.
He was in Recovery 1.
Which was season 4? No, season.
It was.
Yeah, it was season 4 because I remember the ending is the story will be concluded in season 5 of Red vs. Blue.
All right.
And he's been instrumental in helping us cast new cast members as well. A lot of people that we have in the freelancer cast we know through Shannon.
So here we go with the one of the first parts I worked on, because we showed this at PAX East.
Right.
That
was Joe and Ryan.
Joe and Ryan
Yeah.
from the animation crew. And Ryan, everybody knows from Achievement
Man,
Hunter
this
as well.
move right here, I ran from the back of the studio all the way to the front just to get 3 frames out of the mocap to do that flip there.
He actually jumped on the ceiling too. Crazy.
He broke a desk.
I broke myself.
I would like to give Carrie kudos for the cool explosions.
Wash uses S here.
Yeah, it was one of the things that we wanted to try and do more of the season. We didn't get a chance to do it for every sequence, but for this one, we're definitely trying to kind of step it up. Because this is what we showed at PAX initially.
Yeah, that's right.
The midair grenade explosion that comes up here. And
I love that.
Awesome.
That was my favorite. I worked on that for so long.
Dude. It came across really well.
Can I just point out something? I go and look at posts and comments in the forums all the time, and I thought we were over-revealing the fact that CT was going to die and that Leader was going to take her armor and helmet, and that's who we know as CT in Season 7. And I thought we were just like, giving it away too soon, and it was amazing how people didn't pick up on it. In fact, one kid in the forum was, God, Rooster Teeth, you're so lazy. It's like, look, you even cast the voice actor as CT from Season 7 as her boyfriend. God. It's like they can't even keep up with their own continuity. I'm like, kid, you're right fucking there. Just make the connection.
Oh, Blood Ball. Man, I remember.
It is crazy, like, all the fans that have come on in the last 3 years. And a lot of people don't know all of the old storyline. And in addition to that, what I always hear or always read is people saying, "Don't kill off York. York can't be dead." Which always makes me sad. When I read those comments.
There was a day I went to Bernie. I'm like, what if we use the shield as an offensive weapon? And he tosses it, and they fire, and it just fills up with blood. Man, it would have been. We were thinking about like a shower of blood that pours out afterwards.
Yeah, there was a lot of ideas of how to use the shield in crazy ways because at this point, York is the only one who really has an AI that can be shown because North has it. York has Delta, but his equipment doesn't really lend itself to being super offensive.
Another reference there to season 8.
Here comes Robo Demo Man.
Everybody's favorite character. So Brandon only had like one written line, I think, in the script, and he turned that into like 100 lines or something.
He earned it. He earned it.
The best line's got to be, "Oh, my robot." We were all saying that for like 3 weeks.
Oh, this is the coolest shot.
This was originally in the first draft, the intro to Sigma for the first time.
That's right.
I like how we changed it. I liked how we introduced Sigma in more contemplative and questioning than we do in the action. Honestly,
he's very cerebral. He's very intelligent. We wanted to get that point across. So I think we established well in a classroom.
Well, he also has a scene here where he talks to North and York in a second, where he has that kind of intro too.
Monty, there's a few of those shots that you make, like that one where he tears the tow hook off of the Jeep. That is so classically Monty framed to me.
I was doing that scene. I'm like, man, I throw a lot of cars. I throw
Why
planes.
Do you hate cars?
I just throw vehicles all the time. I don't know if I keep repeating myself or it's just I don't know. Here's that scene we're talking about.
There's a very subtle movement of Delta there when Sigma is talking, when he kind of moves back just a hair. And I don't care if you did that intentionally or if that was a happy accident, but I really like it because it makes it feel like Delta is just ever so slightly.
That works so well just there right now, how we had an animated, simulated, flamey character touch a Machinima Halo 1 character.
I was so worried about that shot because that was one of the ones I did like right down to the wire, and I thought there's no way that was gonna work. But it ended up being really easy to do.
Oh, those knives are awesome, by the way. Ryan built those knives, the heart knives.
That's your serendipity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this shot just makes me cringe.
There's a thing where I just like, you have to kind of measure like, okay, he just kicked the car. This should be no contest, which it wasn't. So awesome.
What are his bones made of? Trees?
That shot right there is another great example of trying to explain Monty's workflow and animation process to the other animators, because when Main lifts up his fist right there, right before he's gonna smack down on Demo Man or Big Man, Monty increased the size of his fist to 105%, right?
No, it's like 120.
120?
Yeah.
But that is something that a traditional animator would never do. It's more like a cell drawing, like a traditional animation
where you
hand drawn.
Squash and stretch applies a lot more to 2D animation than 3D.
And every time the animators who were doing the cleanup passes and getting things ready to go into the sets would get your stuff, they would always call me up and be like, I can't figure what's going on here because these characters are getting bigger and smaller and everything's changing.
My robot arm. Wow, look at those explosions.
And I want to point out here that we have another cameo here. Girly is played by Hannah Hart of My Drunk Kitchen.
Awesome.
And I remember when she was in the booth and we were showing her some of the action scenes, and she saw that the knives had hearts on them. That she squealed.
Yeah.
Great gag right here.
She's got a great.
This
voice.
was Matt's idea. The robo hand.
And great job, Jeff Yan on the water stuff. Jeff was one of the compositors that worked with Carrie and Gray.
Oh my god.
That was new to the team, and he did kind of just kind of a little bit of everything in terms of the 3D work and the compositing, and really filled in a lot of gaps. Made the he helped you on the AI stuff for Omega, right?
Yeah, he did. He also did the bubble shield, like the cool refractions that it did and all that kind of stuff.
Miles, did the elephant give you any trouble working in Sandtrap this time around?
Yeah.
There's the elephant.
I made no, because originally the scene was shot by you, Carrie, and it was no, it was the
was the other one.
previous episode.
Yeah.
It was Tucker and Church talking about Carolina and what's going on, and Tucker's a badass, and that elephant was there, and it was originally like there wasn't much more going on in the desert near that elephant, but then for the rest of the time that the Reds and Blues were there, I had to drive the slowest vehicle in the game and then park it right over there.
Yeah, welcome to me in season 8 when I first started.
Yeah, it bounces all the time, all sorts of shit.
Was this also when you were filming this? Was this when I helped you and did that sweet jump in the background?
No, that's late. I think that's
Oh,
later.
man.
No, that's episode 11 when Carolina takes off. You got some sweet ass.
It was
air
so
on her
good.
mongoose. I have that saved on my desktop. It's saved as sweet ass air. But the beginning of the machinima in this episode is Caboose running in and out of Hologram Church, and I wanted to do that since like the first episode I got to machinimate. I just got giddy and wanted to do that, and I'm glad it finally made it in. Coming up with names for church is more difficult than you think.
It's like back in season 8, we try to find as many ways to call Monitor Church a ball.
Yeah.
Gumball.
What was the MC?
Or MC Orbalot?
I don't know. That was like my favorite. That was the greatest one.
MC Roundalot. No, MC Orb and the Roundalots. This scene also, like you're saying, Miles, was one of those where, and I was gonna bring this up from what Bernie was talking about earlier with the script. It was the machinima scenes. We had a lot of them where we had like a page. It was a short scene and just kind of like, let's go back and catch up with these characters and see what's going on. But we hadn't fully fleshed out the storyline when we started on the machinima side. The animation side was pretty much totally mapped out, and I just looked this up before because I was curious where we ended up. But our beginning script 135 pages. The script we ended up with was 235 pages.
Jesus.
Wow.
Which is just insane.
Oh man.
It is totally insane. And we actually had to split the script into two different ones. We had a machinima script that was going the whole time and an animation script that was going the whole time because there were so many little updates, and we were kind of had two separate pipelines going for them. It just became easier to work with them that way. But then we ran into problems later because there were a few scenes that were originally animation that got switched to machinima, and a few scenes that were originally machinima that got switched to animation.
Man, I loved making these guys.
They were really cool.
Monty, I would say this is one of your genius moments in character design. the smiley face.
Because we had Shark Face last year, and I'm like, man, we gotta do something again. And then so, man, I remember we were talking about how season 6 using the ODST helmets, and it looked like they're frowning. And so it's like, so and we're thinking about chain gun. I was like, oh, the happy face would be great. It's just one of those things that just kind of made itself.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, are they robots? Because they communicate via laughter and frowny sounds, and then like yellow liquid comes out.
There's a deleted scene. If we get to make it, it'd be great. Where they're not actually shooting bullets; they're shooting paintballs here. And that the blood that popped out of there at the end wasn't their blood. It was just their backpacks exploded full of yellow paint.
And we kept
so
that.
so these guys will look behind him right now, and they'll see these guys are actually just painting a big smiley face behind them. They're just trying to
right on the wall.
They're not trying to shoot them.
They're just having fun wherever they go. And these two characters were voiced by our own Michael Rage Quit Jones and Lindsay Tuggy. Adorable.
Oh, the knock knock jokes. We had to work that in.
I think did Eddie write that section?
It was awesome.
Good old Tex.
Mm-hmm.
This scene also.
Ghostbusters reference?
Yeah, that's right. One of the greatest movies of all time. that scene changed a lot from the original way it was written on the page.
Here. I have no idea how she got here.
This was one of my favorite episodes in terms of the way it was structured. I think this was laid out this way on the first draft of the script, and I think when everybody read it, thought this is going to be just a super, super cool episode. And we had to reconfigure a couple things and have some overly long episodes in the run-up to episode 10 to make sure this remained episode 10 as Tex's episode, because we have that historical pattern of introducing Tex and making her big episode be episode 10 in all the seasons that she's in. And of course, season 10, we've got to do that. And I love the bookended style of looking at CT's helmet and going into kind of her memories and
Here's Shane's
everybody
big
else's.
sequence.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the controversies around mysterious blue guy,
So many
MBG.
messages.
Shane, did you know who Blue was when you were animating this?
Yes. But I didn't know he.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
You had more that was happening before. We kind of trimmed this down, right?
Yeah, I think we're actually putting that in as a deleted scene.
And I think when we talked about this originally, Shane, I think I said to you, just come up with some cool way to kill those guys, because he can't just shoot
So I
them.
was gonna have him go on this action, big battle, like destroying them, beating the crap out of them, and then you're like, oh, that's not in character.
Sorry for hitting you in the face so hard.
Man, this was one of the first things I made.
It might have been the first, right?
Yeah, because some of the motions are holdover from some of the stuff we didn't get to do for season 9, including the knife fight that Kerry and I did. Like some of the moves was actually me and Kerry fighting each other in the suits. We had this sequence we planned up and.
I remember the beginning of season 9. We spent so much time with you, just choreographing the scene, and it was like, oh,
Yeah.
not gonna get to do it.
You can check out the deleted scenes for probably the full version.
Yeah.
Or the incomplete version from last season that had moves that got held over to this one.
I remember there's such a big deal online between episodes 9 and 10 where everybody thought Blue had died. And everybody got so mad at us for, taking so long to actually get to Blue and actually get to use him, and then immediately killing him.
But
And they're
then
there's no way he's dead.
But then this happened, and he did his badass rifle shit.
Oh yeah.
You know how we were talking about comments? I actually had people write saying, "How could you kill CT?"
Oh really?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna have a stalker come and kill me because I killed CT.
Shouldn't have killed CT.
I guess so.
God.
They do have a point.
This is a really great scene, I think, too, because it does set so many things in motion, and it's really the kind of conclusion of the Resistance storyline that we started with, early on in season 9.
Oh, speaking of which, this track here is an artist I know. His name is Zaid Tabani. He goes by Red Rapper. I contacted to help out with the song, so I got him in touch with Jeff. The dude is amazing. He's just got such a booming voice that I wanted to use him for something.
Yeah, he did a great job on this.
Such a great job.
Really great. And it was really fun to have two rappers on this track, because we had Zayd and we had Lamar.
So we have this duo thing going.
Yeah, which is exactly what the scene is about. And I thought they played it really well, and it worked really well with how the scene was orchestrated.
This took so long, but it goes by in 20 seconds. Just everything that happens.
Jeff was so excited about doing those blood effects.
I remember he did a version of it, and you came down he kept doing versions of it where you're like more, and then it got to a point where it's like, okay, back off.
That's the best way to do it.
She's not getting up. Yeah. The kidneys falling everywhere. Leave more one kidney. No, don't leave me hanging.
This is,
Gross.
I did a lot of the rendering for that scene, and it just brought back so many memories of season 9, Monty, where Monty always leaves these little surprises for me in scenes. So I open up a scene and I start rendering.
Is that Brandon?
That's Brandon's face.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do all the lighting and everything, and then Monty comes in an hour later and go, oh, hey, I forgot to tell you, that character didn't have any guns. I left 18 guns on that character in the shot, but don't let that character have any guns. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I already rendered 18 shots with all these guns.
Because like the inventory that they start building up as the sequence goes on, I was like, maybe they'll use it, maybe they won't, and so they literally be holding like a ton of guns in one hand. Shane, did you mocap this scene?
Yeah, I did the whole death scene.
Shane, you did a great job
From
with
entering
that
the door.
scene.
That was a sad
And
day.
and Brad did some of the facial animation there.
Yeah,
On
that's
on CT.
CT looked really good there.
He said something really funny to me, that he was trying to get CT's dead face exactly right, and he wanted it to be really powerful. And we had talked about how the music was going to be playing, and this is Casey, Jeff's daughter, singing on this track, and she is amazing, has an amazing voice. But Brad was animating this, and he's trying to get CT's face just right, and he goes, "Yeah, I've been researching dead people on the internet all day."
Oh, jeez.
It's like, erase your history, because
Yeah.
we'll get like in trouble with someone. I don't know who.
Man, that looks good.
So that's what happened to her arm. Apparently, we never did complete our objective.
It's fun episode to make. Fun to see that one come together like it did.
I have a feeling this will tell us.
I had fun with the music again. Those are stems from that Nightmare track that I talked about earlier. That was first used when the CT character in Recreation was revealed to be a bad guy. We have that great reveal in Sandtrap of all the bodies hidden around the corner, and it was fun, kind of shouting back to that in just little hints.
Well, I thought it was fun, Miles, with as you progressed and kind of took over more and more of the machinima on the second half of the movie, you seemed to layer in so many fun things that were callbacks, that were very subtle callbacks to the previous seasons, like that, and like some of the ways you framed some of the shots were taken, out of like Relocated when we get back to Valhalla, or those different scenes, and it was fun to see that just the visual memory of all those seasons come.
Matt
come
and
into play in
Miles and I
season
have
10.
a lot of conversations about the history of the show. Man, we just like go back and forth about like, did someone do this there, and
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of tracking. I mean, I've watched the show like hundreds of times at this point, and there are days when Miles comes to me and says, "Hey, Monty, did blah 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 happen?" And I'm like, I think so.
I remember when Matt, you and I had sat down and had our first like big writer talk. The moment when we realized that Tucker had never been to Valhalla was like the craziest, mind-blowing moment. We're like, he's never been there.
Hey, speaking of that, here's another moment that was a very subtle thing in the script that caused some confusion.
Oh,
Do you want to talk
God,
about
yes.
this moment with Wash?
Yeah, this drove me crazy. So, Wash, the big controversy in the comments online was that Wash pulls up the information on CT's datapad, which is this awesome graphic that Brian did, and it's information on the artifact that Epsilon was put in Recreation, and then later shoots his laser face at Wash in Revelation. And everybody was so confused as to why Wash didn't seem to remember the Laserface thing shooting at him, because he has a line that is, we need to figure out more about what's on CT's datapad. And everybody took that to mean, wait, how does Wash not know that? It fired a laser at him. But I was pulling out my hair. I was like, he says we need to find out more about it. He knows some stuff about it. But
He's acknowledging that, and he's like, he's just trying to move the scene forward. But it was confusing for me.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with when you're working with a story this large, and here we are in season 10, and this season is 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
Just one, that's a lot of continuity just for one, movie,
Yeah.
essentially what it is. But we're also trying to keep the continuity of 9 previous seasons in 2 separate storylines, in 2 separate times. So it's a lot to keep
and
track
miniseries.
of.
And
This is the
at
next
times,
episode.
some of that will be just ancillary side stuff. Sometimes it's like just written here or there.
And I have to say that scene with the Reds, I think, is one of my proudest Red scenes ever.
Which scene?
Your the "Griff Was Dead" song. That was a lot of fun.
I really do love all of the monitors and the graphics and the screens that Brian created this year.
Yeah.
They added so much to the scene. Just they're often in the background and you don't really think about them, but they give it so much texture.
Icing.
No, this scene, when Miles shot this scene, I knew he was getting way into the whole directorial thing and getting super excited about it. Because he calls me over and he goes, Matt, take a look at this establishing shot. I'm like, that's really nice. It's I like the way you framed it. It's a nice composition. He goes, yeah, they have a line between them now. I was like, what? He's like, see, there's this line. It's a line. It's the light's coming through. It's creating a line.
I had to tell you because I knew no one else would see it but
like,
me.
Okay, that's great, Miles.
There's canted angles on the wall.
This was an awesome scene that was once again made even more awesome thanks to Trocadero and their great musical track.
Yeah, this one evolved was really funny because I think it was actually Gray originally who had the idea to use Carolina in the Morning in some way in a graphical form. He was gonna try to composite it on the coffee cup or something along those lines in this scene, and so we just started talking about all the different Carolina songs that there are. Carolina in the Morning and Sweet Caroline and Going to Carolina in My Mind and stuff like that, you know. And I really wanted to use one of them, and we looked up and found that Carolina in the Morning was public domain, and asked Nico to do a cover of it. And you know, the versions that I've heard and probably that you've heard are like the Dean Martin version, where it's really swinging and, you know, kind of crazy. And obviously that wasn't gonna fly. And Nico found a really cool way to make it sound like a really true Trocadero track. Just, you know, just really heartfelt and just with a really kind of deep, resonant groove. But it is Carolina in the Morning. It's that song. Yeah. It's a standard. And to me, it's great because it fits so well with RVB over the years, and also in the kind of like unapologetic love story of that song, of the way that song's written about, you know, the woman, and to have that reflected with the Carolina and York storyline, which we were just kind of really beginning to develop at this point in the season, and kind of be more earnest and more deliberate in what we said about their relationship than we had been in the past. I thought it was just a great culmination of all those things. And we also got so many comments about this episode online about how refreshing it was.
The casual nature is really great.
Just to see two freelancers being casual and just talking. And I do think this episode went so far in rounding out the characters, even the characters who aren't on screen in this. You feel like you know better because you think, okay, these guys do have a life beyond being in the armor all the time, and they have more on their mind than just shooting.
I remember we wanted to do more of that early on. I guess we just didn't. I mean, we didn't have the capacity for it. But I mean, I remember some of the earliest talks about freelancer storyline stuff Bernie and I had was about before suits and before armor.
That's right. Well, originally one of the very early scripts that Bernie wrote, they were going to get the suits.
Yeah, that's right. This whole this whole we're the good guys thing, are we the good guys thing, was like one of the earliest things that York would say, was like, we're the good guys, right? Was like one of the first lines that was ever written for York.
And I think another understated but really poignant aspect of this scene and some of the earlier scenes with North and York in particular, and they have a couple really good scenes together both here and in season 9, is that they're the only two characters that you know of that are dead.
Yeah.
Right. Well, not the only two, but they're two very important characters that you know are dead.
They're very dead.
And yeah. And it's one of those things that, you know.
Oh man, this scene.
It adds emotional resonance to what they're talking about.
This happened so late. Like I was like, hey, we should do a thing where she visits York, where York died.
I love you so much for saying that.
And it was very simple in my head. I didn't think we were gonna take it this far, but I was just like, we should totally do this. It'd be good for her character.
Well, we had the working script of the machinima stuff, and there were places in it where we knew we needed to match up some character motivation and some exposition that we didn't have, and we just had like a paragraph that would say something along the lines of, in animation scene, York was just watching over Carolina. Need to have a scene where Carolina thinks about York or talks about York to mirror it, and she should come to some resolution about what her mission is, blah, 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 blah. And then we just had to fill in what that was going to be.
Yeah.
And then so Monty had this idea of
visiting where a Halo 2 map. I mean, that's what you don't even see it when you look at this. Only the people who watched Out of Mind and are very familiar with the progression of the game Halo know that this is a very complicated sequence that Miles toiled on for days on end, where we have a Halo 3 character standing in a Halo 2 map, which is just not easy. But it ceases to be about that when you get to be what this scene is, and that's great for the character. It's about, which is tough. Like Carolina as a character is a tough nut to crack because she's so extreme on one end or the other. It's one of those things where and it's hard to understand. It's like sometimes the best can be the worst.
That was another one of our notes that we just had, like a sticky note just sitting around on our monitors that said must humanize Carolina.
Yeah.
Because we were so focused on making her an incredible badass and making her this amazing juxtaposition to Tex, but we needed to have those moments where she would be rounded out and where you would feel for her and we were sympathize with her and her plight.
That episode just there was a huge turning point for a lot of people who are on the fence for Carolina.
And Miles, you actually wrote and directed that entire episode.
Yeah. I was pulling my hair out. I was so afraid that people weren't going to like it or something. I was like, there's not enough dick jokes in this. They're going to hate it. They're going to turn it back.
The lighter.
And it was the lighter, yeah.
Oh, man, the lighter was such another hey, how about this? I just go up to Matt and what about this? And it's yeah, that sounds great. It just becomes part of the thing.
I didn't ever have any reservations about this episode from an artistic standpoint. Once we all started talking about it and Miles got up ahead of steam on doing it, I felt very confident artistically that it was going to turn out great, and I really think it did. It was one of the shining star episodes of the season, and that's saying a lot with how many great episodes we had. But I think I had a moment where I was thinking about the number of effects in it, and I kind of looked over at Kathleen, and we just had this moment of, this might be biting off more than we can chew, this one episode. And it was, Miles, how long did this, you had Carrie helping you, and Brian
I couldn't have done this without Carrie and Brian. Kyle gave me some help.
And it took almost 3 weeks.
Yeah,
right?
I started doing it. This is the first thing. I was doing storyboards on it, just pencil and paper, because I couldn't wrap my head around how I wanted it to look. And I remember I was drawing him, and Nathan came out of his office, and he looked over my shoulder at what I was doing. And I looked up at him, and he frowned, and he goes, "That's way too professional for this place. You need to stop that right now." I thought it was really funny, but I was like, it wasn't like a normal machinima thing where I could just go in, jump into a game, and just start recording. It was, I'm going to have to go down to Carrie's desk, ask Carrie if I can use his second PC so I can load up Halo 2 PC, and then go in and get that. And it was each shot took forever, so it had to be.
Man, does the map hold up really well too? Look, I mean, look at that, look at it, and you have to remember that's a game from an Xbox, not.
And with Delta in here, how many forms of Halo are we seeing? Is it it's 3 different games, right? At least.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So you had Halo 2
map.
PC.
Yeah.
For the map. We had Halo 3 for
the
characters,
right.
And then Halo 1 for Delta.
Yes. And then we referenced a club in Halo Reach.
Yes, the logo from that lighter is from the Halo Reach club. This was excellently written. These are phenomenal. The journal entries thing, I couldn't have come up with that ever, about York writing these journal entries. It just gives you a peek into what he's been doing.
Dude, and Sean did an awesome job recording his lines.
Yeah.
I remember I was still kind of nervous about it, and I'd never recorded with Sean before. And then as soon as we were done and he had left, I was just super excited. I was like, I'm going to go listen to those now.
Look at the emotion on Carolina's face.
Look at that. Low angle, she's looking up. Girl sad.
Dad emotion.
Dad emotion.
Shout outs to emotions.
Oh, this line I was proud of. That was a cool effect that Brian taught me.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, the
so this was the shot that you originally came up with as a kind of a pitch to me and Bernie, right?
Yeah, because this was episode 12 was a really long script, and like you were saying earlier with episode 10, we didn't want to change that bookend style of it at all. We didn't want to have to move a lot of stuff around, and at first you weren't too keen about this scene being in this episode.
I was
cut down on time.
Yeah, look, I never had any reservations about it in terms of the artistic merit of what was going on, but as from a producing standpoint, Kathleen and I were starting to get the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
About how everything was coming together.
But I got that opening shot of Wash in the Sunset was the first thing I ever shot, and I sent you a still image. I was like, look at the sunset. We have to do it here so we can get that sunset.
And this is a great scene too between Caboose and Wash.
Fun fact: this entire set is floating up in space and it's just like a few blocks wide. We had a take that I think will end up in the bloopers of Caboose did his well, we are friends, and then he walks away and he walked off the cliff and fell to his death.
We were friends.
And I love that. I love that we're still, after all these years, and even with all the cool animation stuff, we're still doing tricks in machinima to pull off some really cool, amazing scenes. And I always think back to episode 1, and using just the idea of using a character as a cameraman and then putting him on the turret of the tank to get a crane shot was such a great idea. And that just kind of set the tone of creativity and taking the assets that you had available to you and remixing them and reusing them in a way that people hadn't seen before.
Yeah, even in animation, in some sense, we still do that by honoring old, like the old way you had, the old process you had to go through to get certain things. We still like put that in our heads in terms of like how we get shots done and how we shoot certain things. We don't go too off the wall, except when I do.
And I know I've talked about him a lot, but I gotta say again, the track "Far Away" on the new "Flying by Wire" album by Trocadero was, when I heard this song, I was incredibly excited. I started talking to Nico about the music for this episode, and he and I went back and forth just tossing ideas at each other, and I think the music in this episode really, really, really helped it come across strong. And that shot at the end, I don't know, it was so cool to see it all come together. And that was a great line, but I think you added the "Talk to Tucker" in. You or Bernie added that one line. It was so great.
That was our make Carolina laugh moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And poor Caboose is so concerned for church. He doesn't know.
There's that look you were talking
Angry
about.
eyes, man. Sinister.
Oh, the locker room. The new locker room.
How did you feel about the new locker room, Monty?
I think it's great. Look at all that detail.
Future room.
It's the future.
I'm just excited about the stash that we're going to get in a few seconds.
Yeah. Dude, I've been thinking about Fire Stash this entire commentary. I'm going to go do that once we get out of here.
Fire Stash.
That's the main antagonist is Fire Stash.
Yeah. No. See, what we got to do is in 11 you establish the Fire Stash, and in 12 it breaks away.
Wait, do we ever get
and then
to
it's
see
like the main antagonist.
the junk that's in the lockers?
We do in like a scene or two from now.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Wash's doors open.
Is that Gamma?
That's Gamma.
Yeah. And man, Sigma looks great in this episode. He looks really great. Dustin did the vast majority of the animation in this. This
I love how Gamma moves.
Me
so
too.
Fluid.
Now Gamma was you and Dustin kind of collaborated to make him that style, and with the little digital artifacts and stuff that you added in the crazy weird stop motion animation.
Yeah, well, because I mean he's we've seen him as a computer screen, and we wanted to not see him as a computer screen this time around, but we still wanted him to feel, I don't know, like an old modem kind of feel to it, and Dustin did a great job figuring out how to do.
Is that you
that
playing
animation.
Gamma, Shane? Are you Gamma?
No.
I know it's a really small detail, but I loved the little sound and animation that Gamma did when he appeared and disappeared. That little
yeah, that was a really cool
addition.
addition.
So cool. I don't know why. Something about it was so neat.
Who mocapped the scene?
I think Dustin.
I think Dustin did almost all the animation for this, if not all.
That door, every time I see it, I'm like, that's just one of our other doors sideways.
Yeah.
Illusion shadow. Oh, wait. The stash.
That stash.
Hello.
That's my new desktop wallpaper.
Oh, man.
I swear, sometimes Counselor looks like David Schwimmer to me. Like a
Counselor
black,
does
like,
look like David
like
Schwimmer?
a black David Schwimmer.
Now I'm wanting Shane to go make a Friends montage where David Schwimmer is replaced with Counselor.
That poor guy on the floor.
That was Kyle who. Helped
That's
us
right.
a lot
Kyle
with
did the voices for that, and he got a couple really good ad libs in there
Yeah.
that he threw in too.
He's a goofy guy. I love him.
He said, I don't know if you can hear it underneath the other dialogue, but in the beginning he's saying, "No, you can't come in here. Nobody can come in here. You can't come in here. You can't." And then after he gets knocked in his punch, he wakes up and he goes, "You can't. Oh, I'm in here. I can't be in here."
Yeah, Kyle's definitely saved my ass helping me with machinima for the last bit of the movie. Shout out to Kyle.
Shout out to Kyle.
Shout out to Kyle.
No.
No?
No.
No shout out to Kyle?
No shout. Yeah, shout out to Kyle.
Shout out to Kyle.
Speaking of reflections and how cool they look, they're also very telling of some errors we have every once in a while.
Oh.
Where if a character happens to render without the hair, or maybe we specifically want them to render out with the hair, guess what? No hair in the reflection. Just got bald Carolinas everywhere.
Oh my god.
I don't think it ended up in the episode, but it was a scary pass to find. I just kind of like I yelled at Ryan, like, Ryan, we have this, Ryan, help me.
That's like a weird form of vampirism.
Yeah,
the hair in the
her
mirror.
hair's a vampire.
Do you think Firestash can see his hair?
Firestash can do whatever he wants.
There was a shot
it a
that
he?
just went by with Carolina where we broke the 180 rule with the camera.
Yeah.
And it was actually an accident, but I thought it was kind of a cool accident where Dustin and I had gone over the blocking and the screen direction for this scene just over and over and over again. It was one of those scenes where we kept starting on it, and then I would have to go out of town, or he would have to move on to something else, and we finally finished it up. And there was one shot where Carolina's on one side of the camera, and then we moved to the other side in the space of a second and a half, literally a cut just around director. But it's when she says that she wants the two AIs, and I really liked the duality of that. It's like we see one side of Carolina, then we see the other all of a sudden.
Jeff incorporating that subtle Carolina theme in the music.
Yeah.
So awesome.
When it does, you'll be the first to know.
Girl. She did
It's
not just
on.
go there. Oh god, dude, I love this shot. This is one of my favorite ending shots of an episode. That is so
It's just so
sinister.
creepy.
Oh my
So creepy.
god.
Oh my God,
And
we're
great
back to
sound
Valhalla.
design by Nathan on that as well.
I was really excited about this shot too.
Look at those trees.
Now here's your relocated stuff we were talking about.
Yeah,
earlier.
every time we go to a new place, I tried to use the music that was used in that season or in that miniseries.
Elgin's over there. That's where Tex ended up. You mean her body ended up there? Right. Show me.
And then we're bringing up the UNSC lie that Wash talked about a few episodes earlier that we then was a crazy long payoff.
Yeah,
I was
that is
really
a long
happy about.
payoff.
Oh, I love it. And we get to see the return of Carrie's character from
Oh,
Revelation.
yeah. I was so excited, like, because you actually wrote in the script, like, and then this pilot comes on, voiced by Carrie from Revelation.
In all caps. Must be
He's-
Carrie.
yeah. He's a.
You wanted no confusion.
He's Firestash's evil henchman in season.
He's the new Phil.
He's like the official groomer of the fire stash.
Well, okay, I guess pilot's named Groomer now.
Oh, man.
Congratulations. So this was the beginning of the rift between Church and the Blood Gulch guys, because essentially like you said, we definitely wanted to humanize Carolina, but there still needed to be tension between the groups. So it was getting her on the island alone with Church was such a big deal, so that the Reds and Blues would still. Okay, that's six. That's
mark that
six.
one down. Where's the Sharpie?
Yeah, the quandary was we got to show a very likable side of Carolina,
Right.
and make people feel sympathetic and empathetic, and like her a lot.
Mhm.
But if we do that, won't the Reds and Blues like her too? So we had to figure out a way to like show that other side of Carolina without like the Reds and Blues see it
Yeah,
essentially,
exactly.
so they could still think that she was like horrible and that her motivations weren't trustworthy.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun coming up with little titles for these episodes on the website, because at first they used to all just be captions, and we didn't want to give away spoilers, so the captions would always be like, "The Reds and Blues discover something."
I've been meaning to tell you something, and I know we have the commentary here for me to tell you. The one of the reasons I was worried about doing that is we have a history of using the same title more than once. and you've already done that.
Oh no, what I do?
I'm gonna let you find it.
Oh, you is it?
Or maybe
Overwatch.
Nope.
No, damn it. It's not lightish green. No, greenish blue with envy. Is it? No. God damn it! I'm gonna think about this for the rest of the commentary. Oh, you damn it!
Instead, you can think about Fire Stash.
That's the title of episode 13. I don't think we've used that one before.
I like the Sarge line. If I sit any longer, I'm gonna strangle my seat.
Yeah.
I just get a picture in my head of him like strangling something with his butt cheeks.
That was you, right? Bernie. That was one of your lines. There's some lines that Bernie writes that just are such a throwback to me to your old boss at your first job, who was just a hilarious, ornery kind of Texan.
That's exactly what that's based on.
Okay. But I love those lines. To me, that's like just vintage Sarge.
Vintage.
Why is vintage?
I don't know. I just
beyond
imagine
classic.
a cologne that we're gonna sell in the RT store called Vintage Sarge.
Brian will make
Smells
that
like
happen.
victory. That'll be the tagline. No, if he made a cologne, it'd be blood of the enemies or something like that.
Yeah.
That's his energy drink.
Man, Valhalla is so colorful. Look at the grass. So green.
Now, Carrie, did you shoot this scene?
Yes.
Yeah, this was one of the first ones that we did, but I think it got added to a lot, right, Mouse?
Yeah. So the conversation, the red conversation in this scene was something that Carrie had done, that you had done really early on in the season,
Right.
and then we just kind of built up around it because we had now had this storyline with Carolina, and now Church is in her memory unit and not Tucker's. And all this other extra crap.
Yeah, that happened a couple times through the season where like there's also stuff in the desert too and all that where we shot a couple scenes and it was like, oh, you know what, let's go expand.
Wow,
this and
South
do
is pissed.
2 or 3 more.
Look, wow.
That's Harley again.
Wow, she's
She
so
did.
angry.
When Harley got in that mocap suit, she was just like, "This is for real."
Oh, dude, Rooster Teeth
I'm going for
skateboard.
it.
Jesus. Look how casual York is.
Shh, casual York, man. Just chilling. Keeps cool.
Wait, didn't she just kick that bench over?
That bench wasn't taking any of her shit, okay?
Okay. Oh,
Monty's pointing out continuity problems that aren't in the actual DVD.
Oh.
Or they're in the version that we're watching.
I actually hadn't seen this episode yet.
Monty, see anything wrong
This
with
shot
this
is
scene?
really good. So when we do the commentary, it is kind of funny because we're looking at an unfinished version of the movie. So there's a lot of scenes in here that we're watching where they aren't colored and things are wrong and it's all crazy. And hopefully you are not watching that same version at home.
Keyword being hopefully.
Yeah, we're kind of still finishing this up.
Man, York, you're so cool. He's the coolest kid.
You know what I like about working with Sean? That I've, since the beginning of doing stuff with him, now we've been. I shot the first video I ever shot in college with Sean for TSTV, which is where Bernie and I met and where Miles worked and Brandon was station manager there, and there's a lot of other people here from it's a University of Texas television station.
Yeah.
And the first thing I ever shot there was with Sean, and when he likes a script, when he likes the writing, he just knocks it out. And it's great because you get this feedback of if Sean is in touch with the material and feels it, like you kind of know it's good and it's working, and you can feel it like in his performance. And if something is not working or not gelling, he gives you that too, and it really does force you to go back and like think about things and kind of rework stuff. And I feel like he brought so much to York throughout the course of season 9 and season 10. I was really happy with, even though it's not a happy payoff, I was happy with how his character develops and the payoff for his character in season 10.
Man, good old Pelican.
Got to give another shout out to Kyle. This was the first episode that he machinimated the majority of himself. So good job, Kyle. Looks nice. Lots of head bobbing.
Ups and then downs.
I love how Wash totally gets butted out by Church. Like Church
Yeah, I know.
literally
That is
appears over
hilarious.
him. Like we got giddy when we had that idea.
As long as we're giving shout outs, I feel like we should take a minute to talk about the animation crew, because these guys have been just unbelievable nonstop. In particular, I wanted to say, we mentioned Ryan a couple times earlier, but Ryan works so much on Achievement Hunter and has a voice there, and don't know if people realize how much he did on Red versus Blue this season. Almost every single frame that came through has Ryan's fingerprints on it in some way, because he was our main technical director, did a lot of lighting, did a lot of just, overall technical work and artistic work, getting every single shot in shape and ready to render, and manage the render farm. What else, Kathleen? I mean, he just kind of did everything, and we wouldn't really have gotten done without him.
Wow, those chairs look comfy.
Yeah.
This is so cool. I haven't seen this scene since I did the storyboards. That was really neat.
Yeah. This scene was animated by Christopher Peterson, who was with us at the very end of season 9 and did a couple scenes in season 9, and came back this year, did this scene, and I think the scene with Texan North and the Medical Observatory, and maybe a couple other ones.
Oh, this scene.
Now, Shane, this was a big one for you.
Man, this was gonna happen so much earlier in the script.
Yeah, when did this happen originally in the script? It was God. Bernie, do you remember? It was episode
10-ish, yeah.
10. And originally it was a full fight.
Yeah.
Right. It was Carolina and Tex actually do start fighting, and they fight. It said insert Monty fighting here, which usually means 5 minutes of brawling.
Yeah, we determined we didn't want to have the showdown between Carolina and Tex to happen twice.
Yeah.
In the season.
There's also a thing I just kind of learned is just sometimes less is more.
Yeah, it's Tex beating everybody up. It was just we've seen it so many times.
Yeah. And honestly, it turning out this way was just a lot better in terms of building tension for the whole of the show, treating it less like Jesus Christ, from here's an episode where we kick ass, okay, moving on, to just here's an episode where we kind of allude to grander things, and it just overall we benefit. Oh, here we go.
Nice work, Carrie.
Nice work, Carrie.
That's so cool.
Thank you very much.
Wow, this is great. I haven't seen any of this yet.
Dude, this is so cool.
Now, Shane, you added something right here that we debated about. Is that breaking some line for Red versus Blue? But ultimately, we decided to keep that in that shot where the two characters are on screen simultaneously with the split screen. I thought it was such a creative choice that you made.
Carpet burn. I found a long strip of cardboard to slide on my knees for that shot.
Oh, stash no!
Now just seeing this preview of this this set, I can't wait for the spooky lab scene later.
Oh yeah.
Oh Jesus,
God, that
Jen,
is creepy.
Jen, what are you doing? Jen Brown is phenomenal as Carolina.
She really is. We get so lucky with Jen. It's really unbelievable, because we had auditioned so many actresses for the part of Carolina, which is a nearly impossible part to play in so many ways, because she's got to be so tough and so fierce and compelling, and also have the ability to kind of banter with people. And Jen is a local actress and had actually met my wife. They had worked together somewhere, and my wife kept telling me, you gotta audition Jen, because she's
did we
really
tell
good
the
actress.
audition story of Jen before?
I don't know, did we?
I don't know.
I don't know if we did, but she had my wife kept saying, you gotta audition Jen, and it's one of those things where it's kind of like you don't want to make a promise to your family that you'll hire somebody for a really important part, or anything like that. So then she just showed up at the audition.
We were auditioning for 2 roles. We were auditioning for CT and Carolina. And the main person we were trying to find was Carolina, because we knew it was a media role. And this was on the 3rd day of auditions, and it was at 8:30 in the morning.
On the weekend, too, right?
Yeah, on the weekend. It was a Sunday. And every single day we fell behind, and we would end up sometimes as many as 30 minutes late for the later sessions in the day. And Matt said, oh, here's a friend of my wife's who showed up, and she's not on the schedule, but she wants to be added in. And by this point, it was one of those tense creative discussions where it's Matt, we're not doing this. We fell behind every day. If we add somebody at the front of the day, we'll be behind all day. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. And he goes, He goes, can we just have her read, something? I said, fine. I said, why don't we have her come in and we'll have her read for CT. She read 3 lines of CT and was like, stop. Now read as Carolina. And she read Carolina. She nailed it.
Nailed it.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a really amazing audition story. Because everyone we had seen to that point, it's like some people kind of understood Carolina, kind of got close, but then it's just that thing in casting where somebody shows up and they get it right away.
It just clicked.
It clicked, yeah.
Yeah, and she's a difficult character to play.
Very.
And very difficult to play and difficult to understand.
And the great thing too is like when difficult to understand is actually an aspect of her that we were trying to maintain. But then there's a certain point where difficult to understand becomes difficult to be invested in.
Yeah.
And she found like the sweet spot to kind of like thread the needle there, where she kept the ambiguity and the mystery of the character, but also made her someone that you wanted to spend time learning about.
Oh my God. Who did this?
Oh,
Who
God.
did this?
I'll take responsibility for that shitty hut and garden.
Okay, shout outs to Old School Effects.
Yeah.
I just did what I was told.
No, it's totally
Nice radio, by the
true.
way.
It's true.
Thanks. The radio's straight out of Halo 3.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
This
Oh my God.
was my favorite shot.
Hey, look,
in
Donut's got his
such a long
stripe on. He's got
time.
his stripe on today. Some days his stripe, some days not.
Yeah, he likes to.
He's not gonna wear the
you know?
same thing every day, Monty. Come on.
No birds. Oh my! What is with Lopez's arms?
It's
They turned him into Scarecrow.
No,
Scarecrow Lopez.
Yeah.
Look at the no birds, man.
Scarepez.
Scarepez.
Low.
I put a
Low
lot
crow.
I put a lot of thought into what vegetables that Donut and Doc would grow. Again, this is you talking about how I overthink things, man.
I was just thinking like I'm like both proud and saddened that my horrible PSA graphics have somehow been like carried on to a new generation of red versus blue
And I'll teach it to
machinimators.
my children.
Hey.
And
That's
then
right.
their
Yeah. There's Doc
you can
again.
pass on the bad vegetable graphics to the next round.
Oh, I love this bit.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a joke after this that I'm holding back on, but you're gonna find it really funny. So I'm
Okay.
just later. Remind me.
You're not gonna share with the audience, Carrie.
It's it's stupid. It's
Should I go ahead
really
and mark
dumb.
down another
Go, mark it
inappropriate
down,
talent?
even though I'm not gonna say it. Just mark it down.
All right, that's 7 inappropriate comments.
Yeah. Involve cucumbers.
You, orange one. Where's the rest of your team? How should I know? You don't report into each other? Oh yeah. I mean, I get reports.
It's really subtle, but the urgency in Carolina's voice is so appropriate to her state of mind right now.
It is.
Here they come. Let's move.
And I love that she starts off that little scene there calling him Orange One.
Yeah.
And she says it in such a way it's like it's both funny and it's forceful and like you never for 1 second she never for 1 second breaks character.
Oh my God!
I was so proud of that banana bread. I had no idea how to make banana bread funny, and then I realized you just add a customized.
Add
cream.
nuts. When in doubt, add nuts. That's the story of RVB.
So you're saying about the orange one?
Oh, it just with Jen, it was always great to me is that she can say a line and have it be completely in character, but even though the line itself might be stepping outside of bounds like a little bit in order to be humorous, and it's still funny, but she's not sabotaging her character for a joke.
Yeah. And like Money said, that urgent mode that she's in, she doesn't have time for names.
Yeah.
These church effects are getting elaborate.
Yeah, that's the.
It's just away from Carolina's.
Yeah, when he's far away from her, because we still needed to.
His Wi-Fi's not very good.
Yeah, pretty much. It's Carolina hotspot.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Whoa. All right.
Mark it.
That's it. I was about to say, what do you think he would name the Wi-Fi in Carolina, but I think we just answered that question.
He hasn't left her side yet. And he's dedicated.
Love.
Yeah, it's so crazy to have like an actual genuine love story
Yeah.
in RVB. I mean, we've always had the story of Church and Tex, which is, for all intents and purposes, a love story, a very unconventional one, but it is.
Yeah.
And this is a great, other side of that kind of thing, especially having it be with Carolina.
Man, the amount of set dressing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's something I never have time for. Like, look at the amount of monitors and readouts.
And the reflection passes.
My
on
neck
the
made it in
window.
that. I just want to say that's my one creative comment.
Your what?
Was that your X-ray?
My MRI made it
MRI.
into that.
Oh,
shot.
that's right. Yeah.
Is that it right there?
Her head's hiding it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
Time marches
I like this moment between Tex and North.
Yeah.
Because
So does Theta.
Because I mean, it doesn't come across like as too obvious, but the freelancer break-in, as I had it in my head, was that shot at the end of the season 9 trailer, York, Tex, North, right? And we do it in an obvious sense with Tex and York, but there's also North, their inside man in a way, because he's probably the most torn about the break-in. He has his sister, but he also has Theta, and he has to choose and. You see his choice, but at the same time, he still ends up somewhere between. Wow, this looks phenomenal.
Yeah, Matt, you did a really great job on this.
Yeah,
Thanks. Actually, I really wanted to do this scene.
What level is this?
This is solitary.
It's one of the Halo 1 remakes.
Oh my god, that's so appropriate.
Yeah. And it's a great map. And
wait, how is his arms down like that?
That's the weaponless animation for Halo Reach, which is way better than one.
That's so good. It's so in character for him.
It's really good.
It's very panicked.
Yeah, your idea to actually do this in Reach to kind of mirror, like what we talked
Season
about
nine.
season
Yeah,
9 being
season nine. Great
was
idea.
fantastic.
Yeah,
like it really sells.
There are some who are on the camp of just season 9's like lack of relevance that we're able to put into it by doing this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean there's so much going on in the alpha in terms of, the infinite possibilities of kind of like storyline loops in his head. We could go on in that universe forever.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Matt and I were talking about just the circular nature of Red versus Blue. Like time almost in a way becomes irrelevant because of the spiritual nature of the AIs and the way things are. Just like what's going on here with splitting and the multiple personalities. It just somehow ceases to become a factor when you consider just it's kind of all in his head.
Yeah. There was a shot that went by a second ago I wanted to comment on, which was where Alpha splits off a fragment. And so that is the hologram effect in Reach.
Man, this room looks so perverse.
Which
like
I just
the
really
tubes
like
and
the
stuff.
aspect of, using more machinima kind of techniques to tell the story.
So here it is, one of the things that Bernie had an idea really early on about the sarcophagus and what it means. Like, we're finally paying off on what this thing they were fighting over last season.
Jeff's.
Now, Brian and
tentacles.
Joe 2.0 did all this kind of cool, awesome lighting and shadow effects for this scene.
Brian made an animated card that we used to project onto the wall to create the. What it is here.
Very old-fashioned technique. I mean, it's like you call it a gobo in live action, but it's just a card that you place in front of a light, and normally it's static and just makes a pattern on the wall. But we animated it. Brian came up with the animation to make that cool shadow technique. So it's like something they would have done literally in the 1930s in live action filmmaking.
What it is, this going on, and we're finally paying it off. It's the Halo engineer, which is, if you read the Halo canon, it's about they're big on assembling and disassembling and reassembling things.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite episodes. And also I want to say that helping out Jeff Williams on the music with a lot of these really scary scenes, Steve Goldshine, and he's done a phenomenal job for us. I think his first scene might have been the very last scene of season 9 last year, and he's delivered a lot of really great music for us.
Before we get too far away, I was going to say,
is this shot zoomed in?
In that, I think so. In the last shot, I thought Gray did some really cool color correction.
Gray did a phenomenal job. That was one of those that like everybody just added a little bit of polish to it, and it just it really came to life between the machinima stuff, the AI stuff, Gray's kind of color correction, compositing, and Brian's effects and Joe's lighting is. It was really well-rounded.
It's definitely one of those scenes like you'd see a version of it and you'd see like, oh, okay, that's looking cool, and then it would go through somebody else and you'd see another version and go, oh wow, it's looking even better. And you go, wow, it's looking even better.
I want to call out that last machinima scene too that we just went by, which is obviously a reference to season 1, and that was a scene that was written very early on, and it was I don't want to say throwaway scene, but there wasn't a whole lot that was going on in that scene as it was originally written, and you can watch it in the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
And then once we got to this point, we really, really wanted to keep the beginning of it, but we had so much more story we needed to tell, and we were running out of time to tell it. And I thought Miles came up with a really clever way of holding on to that opening bit those opening lines and really answering that question in the most relevant and factual way you could for the series. It's like, I mean, that's the first question we ever asked in the show, and it's, you know, obviously intended to be a kind of a surreal,
right?
You know, kind of thing. But you know, but you made it have like actual their real world relevance. Did I overspeak that?
Relevance is the word this year too. Really, it's about making things important.
I mean, this season definitely ties up a lot of loose ends on this show, and it's just there's a lot of things that kind of like come to fruition.
Gotta say though, shout out to Carrie for that. The why we're here, seeing that opening shot going through the base was awesome.
It was.
Yeah, I'm glad it ended up on the deleted scene.
Yeah,
it was really more of like an elongated scene.
Now here is a kind of a plot point that we added along the way with the dog tag, where I think, you know, as we developed this story and we went forward, the idea of these objects that could be passed back and forth in the different timelines became really kind of central to how we told the story, and they really connect the two time periods. We had the data pad, and we had the dog tag, and we had the lighter.
Yeah, the helmet too.
And the helmet.
Yeah. And they really established this really firm connection between these two worlds, and I was super excited with the way the dog tag part of the storyline played out, because, you know, you see it originally with Tex in that locker room scene. You realize that she thinks it's important for some reason, but you don't know why. And then once we get to the relevance of it, I thought it was so cool that we actually do the big reveal in the present, in the story, you know, with Carolina.
I remember initially there was a big discussion about what would Carolina look in the present day.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Armani, we talked about that a lot.
We did
like,
talk about that.
Big discussion of having her be all like banged up and.
It's nice to show progression.
The haircut thing.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that kind of like more like, well, if we have time to do it, kind of thing, you know. But like, yeah, to show some progression on her character, to reflect just her growth like mentally. CT looks great.
I could watch this episode over and over again just for this data screen, and the visuals on this that Brian put together are just amazing. I mean, look at that.
Wow.
That's just crazy. And if you really get down in there close, there is a lot of actual story stuff on the screen.
Lots of sand trap.
That all kinds of stuff that Bernie had put in the script, and Brian actually took the words, like I think he actually copy and pasted stuff out of the screen direction directly into these graphics.
Oh wow, that was awesome.
And I think this entire scene was also animated by Dustin.
Yeah.
He did the Wash's POV surgery thing, where I always really liked the shot of Wash's POV that Monty did in season 8 when he's waking up, and I wanted to have a throwback to that and asked Dustin to do the entire surgery scene that way, and I thought he just did an awesome job. Now, Bernie, do you want to talk about Allison and the choice? There was a lot of deliberation there about how to pull off that character.
You know, I mean, live action integrated into RVB is always a tough choice. Anyway, we went out and shot it as though it was going to be live action, and we wanted to choose someone as Allison. This is Lindsay Hicks who plays Allison, and she was always a pretty early choice for when we talked about the character. You know, it's just like. We've always liked Lindsay's look a lot, and we've always wanted to use her in something. She auditioned for just about every part, you know, female part in the Freelancer saga as well. But she was just always perfect, I thought, as Allison.
It's funny because I track a lot of the fans in terms of like the what they call headcanon, and everyone pictures Allison as a redhead.
Yeah,
which
which
influenced my choice for Carolina.
Right?
As a redhead.
You know, I forgot to mention earlier when we were having that first locker room scene with Carolina, one of the things that we were very deliberate about in that scene,
awesome.
you
Shane,
go back
did you
and
do
look
this?
at it.
The sharpening is great.
There's a shot of Carolina where she's sitting and looking at Tex's locker, and she's there with her red hair, and we framed it exactly like that early fan art that we had of Tex, where she's got the kind of the wife beater with the star on the
It's
back.
funny, actually. This meta scene's like it too, where it's like on the sitting down with the tattoo on the back too.
Yeah.
Because you have a star. The fan drew the star. Unfortunately, I don't remember right now who made that, but
Shout out to you.
Yeah, it's
Shout out
awesome.
to you.
You know who you are.
Whoever you are, but that's awesome, man. I mean, like that's really the full circle of RVB and the RT community and everything. Where, we're making stuff and the fans get inspired by it. They make stuff and then we get inspired by that.
absolutely. Sometimes we just steal ideas wholesale.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, that blanket looks really good.
when we shot the live action scene with Allison, we actually talked about using that then as just a reference we would animate from as well. So we actually modeled Lindsay's face as well, but we thought in the memories having some live action shots worked okay.
The deleted scene version of this. Man, I watched Shane work on this, and Kathleen did the temp dialogue for all three of them in this.
Yeah.
She did her director voice.
Agent Carolina,
It is not about you.
stop
It is about
acting
the
like a
project.
child. Did we keep that?
I hope so.
It's in
Yeah, it's in the deleted
And
scenes.
with the hats and all?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
The
Awesome.
hats, yeah, we got that somewhere.
Yeah.
We're making 15 DVDs and Blu-rays. 30, I guess 33 if you separate Blu-rays from DVDs. Right now, so it's gotten really confusing to remember what piece of content ended up on what disc.
But just keep in mind, we're just trying to give you as much as possible.
Yeah, that box set's gonna be epic.
It's pretty epic.
Great job, York.
Wow.
I'm sure you say that to all the ladies. Seriously, I'm
So this is one of the few things that we kind of tried to show from memories in the Machinima series, which was the quote-unquote freelancer break-in and what was taking place, and when Tex escaped as well. And I think in one of our first heavy CG shots was in Out of Mind when they were showing the freelancers getting their AI deleted.
That's right.
And they're all just kind of uniform characters standing in a line, stepping forward and seeing deleted on the screen.
Yeah, we had that monitor that was. Didn't Paul make that monitor for us?
Yeah, Paul Marino?
In that shot.
I guess I thought at the time that you did it.
Man, and
all these years, Matt.
I reference Out of Mind
riding other people's coattails
so much when I was working on the break-in sequence. We had this thing about we figured out how to make the break-in really, really cool. By it's always previously thought of being like the break-in was happened at command, which was established as standoff. But then we're like, but the ship and locations and gravity, it's gonna be fun.
There's something too that we kind of had to. In the script and the way we talked about the meta initially, he was like this piecemeal character who had taken components from all these other characters that he had killed, and his armor was like mixed matched. But we couldn't really do that in the Machinima when we showed the character for the first time, and then when we were making the animated version of him, we could have done it. It started off with a different helmet and had him acquire that, but it was just like we have to know who the character is and recognize them. So it's like,
but we did do stuff where we swapped certain armor types, which is something you could still do in the game though,
like chess pieces.
Like he went from like infiltrator to recon to or something like that.
Right.
But I mean, if if this were a graphic novel or something like that, he would literally be just like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yes.
By the end of it, which is when we saw him in Reconstruction, and we just weren't capable of doing that in Machinima.
Angry Carolina.
Yep.
I love it.
Miles, I gotta call you out on one thing for this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about this beforehand,
Uh-huh.
and we were debating how to do church in this episode.
Uh-huh.
And we came up with the idea of when to turn him solid, because you were like, "Oh man, I really want to have some cool moving shots," and it's going to be impossible to do moving shots if he's transparent the entire time. And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And then there's a problem we had to crack, so we came up with that shot. You did do one fucking moving shot this entire episode.
Hey, I prepared for moving shots.
There's
Just
one right
look,
there.
look, there's so many overlapping people. Okay, there's not moving shots. There's not a lot of moving shots.
Isn't this a forged game type right now?
What's up?
To get this grid, don't you have to do it in a forged game type?
Yeah.
But you have non-forged colors.
The secret sound.
Ah, Machinima.
There's a game type in Halo 3 where you can have colored characters in Forge.
Oh.
We used it all the time for, I think, Recreation.
God, that feels like forever ago.
Yeah,
That's right. I
it was a
remember
long
that
time
now.
ago. The game is like 7 years old at this point.
And it holds up incredibly well.
It really does.
Yeah, and Halo 3, we were not remiss at all to go back to the Machinima for Halo 3 because Halo 3 is the aesthetic that even the freelancer stuff is based on. That's our quintessential look for RVB. And plus, the Caboose has the different helmet and all that. It's just like, that's what I associate. Even though it started in Halo 1, I associate the Halo 3 look with the poppy colors and just the roundness of it. That's what I associate with the Machinima RVB.
The Mark 6 helmets and just the armor type in general.
Yeah, I like everything about
this
Halo
shot's
3.
awesome. They're back to back.
Thanks, man. I feel, even though he's being
He
kind
does,
of a
he
dickhead,
does a 360.
I feel.
He can't make up his mind so much, so he turns around and he turns around again.
Can't turn left. I felt so bad for Church in this part where Wash leaves him because he's Church, but he's also Epsilon. Like they were, it wasn't for very long, but like they were a team.
They had that 30 seconds.
And
they
were
a team.
Well, they were like they were. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? They were together for a few seconds before he was forcibly ripped out.
So
and
is Church
shit.
getting
tortured
excited?
one another.
Yeah.
Oh, the feels.
But good voice acting. Shout out to Bernie. on
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, Miles directed me in this one. Yeah, he was like, "Don't do this. Let's get you like crazy."
I would hear.
God, is that what I sound like through the headphones?
Yeah.
Just, Bernie, if we could just be angry in this scene, that'd be great.
Just with a little bit more emotion.
We need you larger, bigger, in the entire room.
Bernie, eat a steak.
Oh God, I hope people cry when they see this part.
Yeah, we're actually into episodes now that we're doing commentary for that we have not yet aired, so we don't know how the audience will react to them.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love the Caboose.
So we're not going to point out the
shot
continuity errors that are from this point on because we don't know
don't
about
know
them
them
yet.
The way Caboose backed up like that, it looked like a scared dog.
Yeah, I when I first started watching, like the instant I saw him backing up, I thought you were just gonna have him back up entirely and just keep going and just never stop going backwards.
I didn't want him to have to do that stupid 3-point turn that they do whenever they do a 360, like,
Yeah.
which you pointed out, which is, you're absolutely right, it looks goofy. But yeah, I don't know. Backing up, Caboose did it. Now we're watching a break-in.
Break in.
So
this was a major recontextualization that I loved.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's changing the break-in from a facility to the ship itself.
Director, we must follow protocol.
Carolina, look at me. You know what needs to be done.
Right.
Then do it.
A base.
Spike Fest. Oh wow, this sounds great here.
Yeah.
I did this Spike Fest. I called the shot Spike Fest. Did this in like
2012.
3 days. It was like there's just some days where I just sit on waiting to be like inspired on something, and then it's like, oh, and then I just knock it out in one go.
Agent Tex is fucking pissed.
And also I want to say about the way Monty works. I feel like I'm always commenting on your work process, Monty, but it's so interesting because this shot is very similar technically in construction to Spiral, which was the signature shot of episode 17 Spiral from season 9, and where it just goes on and on forever. It's one camera move. It's very fluid with all this amazing action. But what you don't know is that Monty actually separates these into multiple shots, and then comp team has to stitch them back together.
And in order for it to work with those pieces, it's actually character centric. So like the background's like spinning around in
right.
some of those shots, and it just Matt wanted to shoot himself.
Actually, I got out of it. I was lucky. Spiral, I think, was done entirely by Nathan.
No, this one.
And this one was done entirely by Gray.
Oh, okay. So
Well, I did
the rendering. I
did the
remember you setting
rendering,
up the lights.
But I looked over at Gray a couple times when he was trying to comp the shot. He was just like,
I do like this
sweating
one though.
bullets.
I also did this one in one day, and I was like,
I just love that the grill drops off the duct just because York is our established infiltrator stealth character, and he's just so shitty at getting in anywhere.
Every time we show him, he says, I'm really better at this than it seems. And he's really not. He's really just terrible at it.
He's just got charisma. That's all he's got. Charisma and luck.
okay, so this right here is something so AI in terms of like.
That's so AI.
Yeah.
Well, it's just supposed to be like they're supposed to be incredibly awesome and make incredible calculations.
I was like, how do you like? There's no way you could use
Self is good there, by the way.
two sniper rifles without an AI. So this is something totally true to the whole, just giving North and powering North up. You know.
Double-fisted no scope. I love it.
What metal is that? Jesus.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
many
Stop
emotions.
playing.
And then
This is the scene, Monty, that had me pull my hair out. What hair I have left?
As we got closer to the end of the series, too, in terms of the writing, it was how far do we go? Like, one of the things when we first see North, he's dead, and South is implied has killed him or set him up to be killed by the meta. And so, do we go all the way to that? And we didn't feel it was necessary, like setting things up in that fight scene between the two of them. Yeah.
That was the very last shot Free Space did for us.
I remember pitching that to Free Space, and he thought it was hilarious.
It's so funny.
Because I was gesturing with my hands, like Missile was going.
I think Free Space referred to that as the Monty feels himself up shot.
Yeah. That's what we just showed the gesture just now.
Which great goes along as a companion one to the earlier shot in episode 4 where the Mother Invention shits out a nuke. Now, Monty, you got to tell everybody what inspired this.
Oh, okay. So here we got a grenade tossed by some
name
guy.
of this shot
The
right
shot
here?
is called Lemon Punch. Or actually,
That
well,
sounds
yeah,
tasty.
We were at PAX Prime last year in Seattle.
No, that was this year.
It was Boston
PAX,
then.
PAX East.
It would
Yeah.
have been PAX Boston, yeah. And a fan came up with some lemons that he wanted to give to us, and he
Yeah.
started throwing them up to us, which someone throwing lemons at you is kind of dangerous. And he threw one at Monty, and Monty just punched it right back at the guy and hit him in the chest. It was an
Everybody was,
incredible
like,
move.
hesitantly accepting them, like, oh yeah, here, sure, there's lemon. Why? You're just like, no.
Best animated GIF ever, too.
Man, that's Solo.
I love the Sheila versus Tex.
Yeah, Jeff got a trumpet player that he went to college with to record this trumpet solo, and it's actually modeled after a Jeff guitar solo. She just like
Shane, where's the
note for note
urgency in these
recreated it.
guys? They're getting broken in. They're just wandering around with their rifles.
They're patrolling.
That's,
There's
that's why
always
they're
patrol.
that's why they're losing.
You never played a video game before, Monty? There's always the guys who just patrol.
What was that noise?
That's awesome. I like the weight on that shot.
This is great. The music for this shot really sells it.
Yeah,
This
the
whole
whole scene,
sequence.
yeah.
Lights are incredible. Lens flares, beautiful.
It's funny to think the thread between these two characters hasn't actually been around that long, but it feels like it's always been there. The Carolina York relationship.
And it's from one line that this whole thing started.
That's kind of started it. For me.
When Church hears about Carolina, he hears about York, he asks if Carolina was with
instantly-
it.
Season 3?
It was season 5.
Season 5.
And that's like our first. I think that's our first reference to Carolina.
Yeah,
Ever?
first
Yeah.
reference to Carolina. He instantly asks about York, and that it's like one of those things where where if you instantly associate two people together, it's because of some sort of thing, and it's just taking it to a level where we can actually represent that emotionally. So this was a very important scene to do. I actually did this here where York, he doesn't want to hit her, but she's at this point so determined, and like just he's not priority for her in a second. She's like the career woman that he just pushes her aside, and here comes that lighter idea I came up with. I just went to Matt one day and again introducing another item that just connects these two people.
Yeah, I love that. I love those objects in the storyline. I think that was one of the coolest things about season 10 is those things being passed back and forth.
And it's so funny the timeline for this because it's said that she took this from him, and then he gives it back to her here, and then she gets it back from him in the present day.
Yep. And then something else happens later.
And something else happens
or
later.
sooner, depending on your point of view.
Wow, this ended up great. Look at those lights. Oh, that's a great delivery on that line.
The music is just epic.
This
in
whole
thing.
episode is wow. People are gonna be pissed at Carolina. There's so many people in love with York.
They can just go back and watch episode 12 again.
Yeah.
Oh man,
So cool.
going so fast, fighting over the world. I love the way
This right here was the first shot you showed from the sequence to anybody, right?
Yeah, I framed it, and I was just like, these two large characters fighting over the world was just something I really wanted to do.
You can't win, Carolina, but you can come with me.
I love these shots too because it's such a great collaboration
Chris,
by
Free Space.
so many people. Free Space, Corey,
They did a great job with the set.
Rich, who made the ship, and Monty for designing the whole thing, the whole sequence of the battle plan, and I mean, it's just so many people worked on it. It's just really fun to see it all come together.
Man, wow, that's awesome.
This is so another scene in Reach, in a memory unit essentially.
Gotta love the ice.
Yeah.
This is a remake of the Halo 1 map Prisoner, and when we saw it had snow and a broken hole in it, it's like, wow, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love the idea that somehow the AI take something about the real physical world that they're in, and it kind of transposes in some way into their the mental state. Like he's not really there. There's no physicality to him. This is all digital information, but he's somehow feels like he's in this cold environment.
Yeah, what was your name? What was your name? Your name again?
It's Texas.
Texas? Like the state?
Yeah.
Funny name for a girl.
Well, Church is a pretty funny name for a guy.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
You gave me this name,
I wonder why I did that.
Well, maybe if you think about it, it'll come to you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna rest now. But thanks for coming by.
Okay, you rest. Church?
Yeah?
Goodbye.
Huh. I don't know why, but...
Miles had a way of describing this Series 10 as a whole. The way the plot started shaping out, just being like this bro movie.
Not necessarily bro movie.
Brandon asked us to describe for the DVD Red versus Blue in one or two sentences, right?
That's great.
And I really liked your answer, which was,
it's a getting over an ex-girlfriend story. Like when you think about it, it's literally the big final fight. Spoiler alert: is Church having to break things off.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's how he solves everything. Is not fighting with her. It's finally just stopping and talking to me like, look, you gotta go.
Passes and find who you are.
Yeah.
The fact that we came now and established that the ship is in the snowy environment, and what we saw as the base, instead of being a base, is a...
Right, so the intention there is that the ship crashed here on this snowy world, and instead of trying to salvage it or move it or anything, they just it became the base, and they kind of built the base around it. So all those earlier scenes that you see on Avalanche, that's the ship.
Man.
Everything that you've seen in Season 8. And kudos to Dustin again for that last shot of Carolina.
Oh, God, man.
That was one I was really excited about doing, and he just nailed it.
Oh man, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah, first time we ever see really Tex run from anything.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
A few times.
And who wouldn't run from scary ass fiery Elijah Wood?
Yeah.
And his fire stash. God damn, man.
That's cool.
I was really happy to
Shit
be able
just
to
got real.
Man, there was a big discussion about Ghost Town in Season 8 where you were going to have people crashing through the glass ceiling and all that. Yeah. Ghost Town always scares the shit out of me when Monty says he likes it. So.
It's such a cool, it was...
I love it too.
It's such a pretty looking map. Although I found out that the scene where Church and Carolina are talking to Phyllis, the ground there, because it's supposed to be kind of destroyed and there's a lot of rubble everywhere. Right where we decided to put Carolina in the scene, she'll float a full foot off the ground, and it kind of ruins any wide shot that you want to do. She's just levitating. I was so mad. But overall, I think it looks good.
This brings back memories, bringing the old Phyllis graphic on the tree.
Right, we stuck Phyllis into a tree. And it was supposed to imply that this place was definitely more hidden than before. It's always interesting too because Mary Cruz, is the actress who plays Sheila/Phyllis. She does approach the two characters very differently. Sheila's kind of a little more smart-assed, and Phyllis is a little more nurturing and concerned.
Yes, and I have to say on that level, coming up here, she did a phenomenal job on that last scene where she's talking to director, and we recorded it a bunch of ways, trying to figure out how much emotion was appropriate for Phyllis to convey.
Is that grass
in that
going
scene with
right
director,
through
and it's just
Sarge's
really
nuts
good.
right there?
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Let's just get a little tickle.
That's real life all the time. Grass goes through your nuts.
Is there some like weird voodoo doll thing going on right now? Can you actually feel that, Matt?
Can you just machinima me over like?
Yeah.
Oh
God.
Just a little bit. There we go.
I'm gonna go ahead and mark that one down.
I'm gonna go ahead and burn the Sarge controller. If Matt starts screaming, then I'll stop.
Yeah, bread. I love the bad inserts on Machinima. It's one of my favorite things. Is just when we have some kind of crappy CG insert.
brute shot.
Yeah, getting all the things that the Blues had won off the Reds was a lot of fun. There's the ghost in there. There's the fancy top hat, skull and top hat.
You know what's really interesting is like when you think about 10 years of Red versus Blue, one thing that came up this year in 2012 is that they landed a rover on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really big deal. They landed Curiosity up there, but they had landed other Mars rovers during the course of our production. In fact, one of our shittier graphics-wise PSAs was when we made fun of the NASA team for landing a bunch of rovers on Blood Gulch. And do you remember that actually got us a letter from
NASA?
From the rover team? Yeah,
Really?
they sent us an email saying that we really enjoyed it, that
I was
thanks for
kinda-
making the video.
I was kind of disappointed about the team from CERN did not send us a letter after we made the Higgs boson PSA.
Right.
Like, give it time. You
Yeah,
know,
give it
just
time.
came out.
Or you think for all the times we've mentioned Jenny McCarthy that goddamn she can at least pick up a
Or
phone.
Mila Kunis. Maybe she'll finally show up. Man, giving
Can we mention her more often?
Griff the brute shot was pretty important.
I think you mean Griff shot, Monty. It's the Griff shot.
Okay, Griff shot.
It's a rifle knife.
It's like Matt and I talked about this about the evolution of characters based on like their equipment. Tucker is synonymous with the sword now.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like that's to us. That's the same thing with Griffin the brute shot. Like he got it from the meta and the season 8.
It saved his life.
It saved his life. It's part of him now. And we're having all these hopes and plans about putting in, but it's like 12 episodes, 13 episodes of Machinima goes by, and I'm like, hey, Miles, has he got his brute shot yet? Has he got his brute shot yet? And it's like, no. When's he gonna get his brute shot? And finally, we get to this episode where they're talking about it, and it's super relevant for once.
Yeah, and by the way, Miles, nice job working in a classically written donut line for that scene. I always enjoy a good mounting.
Yeah.
That was the icing on the cake. For that
Thanks,
scene.
man. I really enjoy when they're going through all the things about all the things they learned. It's like, I did this, and donuts, and I got shot. And then Wash just kind of starts whistling very casually. He whistles the 479 theme song, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That happens.
Classic Sarge. Vintage Sarge.
Vintage Sarge.
This whole sequence in here is something that changed from the initial draft with the split up and then they get back together. It kind of across the whole 10 seasons, this is a nice callback to Reconstruction in a way where everybody splits up, and then one of the themes of Reconstruction was, rebuilding the red and blue teams when you don't know what happened to them after the Blood Gulch Chronicles.
Bringing everybody back together is really great. I mean, that's what Red versus Blue has always been more about red and blue than red versus blue.
I wouldn't say always, but yeah, but it got to that point.
The camaraderie between the characters is just, it's just so much fun. You have to go back to it. And
well, it's like
I
Church
love
said,
seeing them get back
you
together.
can't hate people because they're red or because they're blue. You have to hate them because you know them and they're a fucking douchebags. And you can't stand,
That's one of my
and you
favorite
can't
lines.
you can't stand them. That's the only legitimate reason to hate
I
somebody.
tried to get that line on the Churchisms poster really hard, but then it was like 2 paragraphs long. Everybody looked at me like I was an idiot.
The Hornets.
Longest joke.
Carrie, your finest hour, my friend.
Yep, thank you so much.
Groomer the pilot.
No, I don't have a stick. This is like Doc. Yeah, I was really excited to.
I love the Hornet.
They're a pain in the ass to shoot.
I love the
Every
Hornet.
about 15 seconds, they just jump 3 feet to the right.
Really?
Well, and we have this.
Yeah.
There are 3 Hornets in the scene, but how many can you have on this
You
map?
can have
at
a
one time?
maximum of 2 Hornets, so we had to do a lot of tricky cutting and
tricks.
a little bit of After Effects stuff in that final shot where they fly off right before we get to see our last look at Valhalla, and yeah, it took 40 minutes to shoot those 2 flying away shots. but-
Miles,
Cool.
You know, the early trick of writing is don't justify travel. They just walk off screen. They walk on screen somewhere else. How they got there is a mystery to anybody.
I'm learning.
just put a loading ... on the screen and a new map appears.
Just end slate in the show.
Yeah. Here's how everyone gets from place to place in Red versus Blue. They say, let's go there, and Washington says, let's move. And then
every now and then, Caroline will say, load up.
Let's go. Let's go is always immediately followed by, here we are.
Glad we came.
So we're back to Foundry.
It's implied. New location. Griff goes, whew. That was one hell of a journey. I think it's one of our favorite things to do over the course of all of Red versus Blue, though, was always to take the maps and connect them.
Mm-hmm.
We always liked that a lot. I mean, we just did that with that Prisoner remake. I don't remember the name. Do you remember the name of the Prisoner remake in Reach?
I think Solitary.
Yeah. God, it's so hard to keep all the names straight after all the years. But
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, Monty talked about this for a very long time.
This mirrors the hundreds of churches we did in season 8, essentially.
So excited about this line.
You have no idea what kind of trouble you are in.
Oh my God, I love that.
A little bit of Omega from season 1 in there.
Yeah, this is so much fun.
If only one text was so easy to kill.
Yeah. There's a few times where we do like kind of little video game reference things, kind of like acknowledging the video game aesthetic and that there's a video game world, and the music in this is inspired by, it's like a remix of the Carolina theme, but inspired by like 8-bit old school video games.
Awesome.
This was hard to do, but it was definitely worth it. I had a few ideas in my head about like how to reuse this stuff, especially this thing right here. It's in the category of weapons. It's like soft weaponry, but just to use something we see differently was a lot of fun. And I just I pulled out all my tricks to get this sequence done.
I like one of your tricks, actually, is a really smart trick. And that's the delegation trick. I thought you were super smart to like get all this stuff set up, and then you say, "All right, now this is going to need 100 texts. Shane, take care of that."
Shane, you handle 1 through 99.
I love that shot, Monty. That last one. That just the POV, like you really feel what's going on with Carolina and how she's just out of control at that point.
The speed thing was a big deal. I was really happy when we figured out that Carolina was a speed character, because it's about her moving forward and not knowing how to stop despite everything around her, and just like always having like a goal, and just she always hits like an unstoppable, immovable object, and just she always pays for it.
Somebody should go back through and find a scene where she's running and add in that pitter-patter sound effect we have for season 8 on Griff.
You know, it's kind of a thing too. It's like even with a room full of Texas, you always have that flaw with text that gives Carolina some hope. You know. Great callback there.
God, that's beautiful.
God bless Dan Godwin.
Monty, I love you.
Man, overwhelming odds with little to no chance of success is basically the story of getting season 10 made. I mean, this was just a monumental project for us, and I'm just so grateful for everybody for
It's
working
weird
as
being
hard
at
as
the
they
end
did.
of it, because just the amount, it just seemed like this huge monolith we had to climb at the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
We didn't think it'd get done.
Are
we done?
Yeah. Gray, I just walked by Gray a minute ago, and he was sweating, so we're close. But everybody really just, went all out. I mean, right from the very beginning.
So here's this. We've said it so many times. We're not gonna make Caboose fight. We just like one of the things I'm big on is making promises so that we can break them.
In awesome ways.
Speaking of breaking, I think we.
But if you're gonna do it epically.
That's true. Look, oh my God! Look how many Texas are there.
Animate every single one of those.
Shane's computer is dying right now.
You mean like
I added like almost 100 Texas in one shot.
I love the end of that shot. He just
He's
fires
shooting
into
the Texas in the sky.
It's so confused. Monty put him in right there. Where's he going?
There he goes again.
He's looking at Steve.
He goes.
Can we give another shot to Dan?
Hodenenden.
And Hodenenden translates into.
It's German for testicle ender.
When Monty is serious about a shot, the German comes out.
Yeah. This is the shot that's breaking Shane's computer as we speak.
Yeah. Jesus.
And this one.
Oh, that was Shane. That was a great text in the foreground.
Shane, I love Monty, but I'm okay with doing things with you on the side.
Yeah, but that was one guy, not 100.
There's only one Tex. In church, nobody knows her like you.
All right.
Oh, such a
Stand back, everybody.
nice moment between the two of them.
This is gonna get a little personal.
Don't judge me. I like Wash, okay?
Oh, this is great. I like the framing.
Hey, well, Monty, we're back to our theme of the circular nature of
Yeah,
everything.
no kidding. I love the way you did this. It's almost like the conversation that she had with him, whatever years ago on the ship. It's just continuing.
Exactly.
It's great.
It's all kind of like an infinite. I think the what we talked about was the idea of the spiral, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And which is such a great
It's so
visual concept to map out how red versus blue progresses, and just like,
Right.
as a theme overall is just awesome. Where it's like you keep going forward,
but there's
you're
just
kind of looping around.
a slight
again.
deviation because circles are perfect, but if everything was circular, it would just continue the same way over and over again. But spirals, like so many things, they just a small amount of deviation can create progression.
Great progression. That's right.
I like that.
And this scene was actually most of the dialogue is verbatim, just flipped between the earlier scene, and the visuals as well are mostly exactly the same with some few adjustments as the earlier scene, because we have Tex makes her goodbye, and then Church gets to make his goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Without saying goodbye.
Closure for everybody.
You could have done that before I got punched in the nuts by 20 of them at once. Yeah, but where's the fun?
I had to be careful too. I mean, it's always like with Tex never saying goodbye. You have to be very careful about, making sure she never says it before, and establish those things with the characters. And it's like, Mary once again who plays Sheila, she established that very early on that Sheila would never use contractions. Ever. Yeah. And it's always very careful. And like you might accidentally write one in, and she'd be like, nope, Sheila doesn't say a contraction. It was an important thing to her.
She sees an apostrophe and just like, no, this isn't happening.
Wow, look at this scene.
So a lot of work, a lot of people in this scene, because there's so many elements going on here.
Because of the humanity of the scene, it's so potentially dangerous if not done properly.
Yeah,
but at this point, people are investing in 10 years or 5 years in this particular storyline.
Yeah.
I think it's people want to have some emotional weight and payoff to this.
I think so too.
And that's the thing the fans are really eating up is the payoff on so many characters.
Well, you have to do that. You can't just. It's like Red versus Blue over the seasons has evolved so much, just in the way it's delivered and the way that we make it. That the storyline too itself has to grow and move on as well. When we made the switch from Season 5 Blood Gulch Chronicles to Season 6 Reconstruction, that was a huge gut check. For people who watch the show today, everyone goes back to Reconstruction, I think, as being their favorite season. It's mine as well. It seems like Season 3 somehow replaced Season 1 as the Blood Gulch Chronicles people's favorite, and then, Season 6 for people who like the Freelancer saga.
Wow, the music here is great. Mm-hmm. Your effects on these AI switching was crazy. I didn't see it coming.
Kerry did a great job. on
Pretty
those.
late edition.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I think it's literally the very last thing that was written.
It was. We talked about it a bunch, and there was how to handle the scene. There was part of it where Church Epsilon is the one who stops Carolina at one point because he was conveying the lessons he learned in Season 9 about just letting go and convincing Carolina to let go. But then one of the animators had made that scene of just the director's face, where we see the director's face, and that conveyed so much.
The performance here is so good. Dustin?
Yeah, it does. This is Brad. And kudos to Brad. He really, really knocked it out. He said to me early on that he really liked doing facial animation, just kind of like as a hobby. It's kind of like a sideline thing. When he got time, when it got around to it, and I said, okay, well, let's see what you can do. He did one shot earlier in the season. It was really good, and then did the CT stuff, and then we turned this over to him, and man, I just thought he just absolutely crushed it.
Yeah, I've been compositing the sequence for like the last 2 days now, and I'm just like I get depressed.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at these frames of like sad director and everything.
Is that why you've been eating so much?
Yeah. That and just energy.
All the components here are just, to me, just so great. I thought the script for this scene was just terrific, and then Bernie made some really nice last-minute adjustments to it, little dialogue tweaks here and there that I thought really brought home the connection between director and Carolina and Church, the AI.
Yeah.
And also Allison.
There's a bit of a person we
character.
referenced forever and just never shown,
Yeah.
or never directly. I mean, we don't overtly ever really talk directly, but we say it's so much around the edges. Like if you build the outline of it enough, let everyone else fill in the middle of it.
Yeah. And it wasn't something that we I don't know if we really consciously discussed in terms of the live action footage for her, but I like so much the way it plays out in this scene now that it's all put together, because you needed to feel like the image and the memory of her was overpowering for him and making her completely real.
So much so that it cascaded down through multiple iterations of himself, broken into pieces, you know? And like all the individual pieces, like the scene where, Carolina's AI go nuts, it affects everybody. It's like it's so ingrained in who he is that it cascades down through all the different iterations.
And it was a great performance by Yomiri that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I thought she just really...
So what I did is I sat in a room with Yomiri and John Marshall Reed, who plays the director, and Jen Brown, and I drew the architecture. I'd never done it before for anybody, like drawn like the family tree essentially of who everybody is and like what Alpha is versus Epsilon and Church and all of that. And we worked on that scene for a long time.
John was great too.
John's awesome.
I guess it is.
I mean, talk about building a lot of different characters, having a lot of different people play one character. I mean, look at the director. It's like 5 or 6 different versions of him in the show that like
how many
probably
versions?
played by 10 people.
How many versions of Church are there?
Yeah.
Oh God, not that question. Jeez.
We learned so many lessons, like writing-wise, over the years with RVB and Reconstruction. Season 6, we had a key one, which we learned in season 1, which is don't set up a twist and then deliver it over the course of several episodes, because the audience will just get ahead of you, and they're discussing the show and they'll figure it out. And to set up Reconstruction, layer that whole thing into where the last 2 words of the show are a twist. That took a lot of machinations to get that done.
Oh man, Blue.
So we talked about Blue before. I mean, we actually went through several rounds of trying to figure out who Blue was going to be.
There was a lot of different ideas.
What are you
for
talking
Blue.
about? I always knew.
And there's also, I mean, you're talking about Bernie, how much to give away, how you like lay the groundwork for this twist. And there was really nothing we could do about Blue. We had to put him in the background in a couple shots in season 9 to establish him. And then episode 10 and episode 9 of this season, we wanted to do something that people would kind of
that's
remember him, but then have enough time to forget him.
Right.
Make him seem like he was important in some way, but not focus on him too heavily.
Man, it was great meeting Ed for the first time. I grew up with his music.
So here's our first shots in Halo 4.
Wow, this looks
that
great.
we ever did. It's got the nice poppy colors that we love.
Yep.
That canyon wall looked amazing.
Yeah, well, we wanted to show the box canyon right away, to establish, where these guys are, what it's supposed to be like.
And we got the cone.
Yeah, we got a cone there. Chris Cone is sitting there in the
Are
shot.
you serious?
Yeah, we specifically put that in Forge that there was
Hey,
red
where's,
base would have a
where's
cone.
Chris Fruit Shot? Miles.
It's in the base.
It's in the base.
Okay. Man, I can't wait till this game comes out. Oh my God, it looks great.
And
it's out right now.
We don't really show it in here, but the actual kind of serendipity about this map too is it's got a ship that's crashed into the wall of the map, which harkens back to Sidewinder and everything else that we were putting in the show.
Yes, sir.
Carolina looks a little bit different here.
Wow.
I really like the look of Halo 4. I mean, to me, I love the colors. I love the vibrancy of it. I think they did a great job of it.
Yeah, and she's got a recon helmet now.
It feels really. I mean, to me, I look at it and it immediately feels like Red versus Blue.
It really does. That rock texture is amazing.
I know, right? I kept looking at the canyon. The stupid box canyon was the thing that blew me away.
How old is Xbox 360 now?
7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it is amazing that they're pushing the limits of that hardware like this.
So yeah, here's yet more closure.
Well, this is the beginning of a new story for these two.
Well,
you know?
I mean, it's the spiral thing, right? It's like we're coming back around full circle. It is closure, and it's also opening up a new chapter.
You know, it's like a jumping off point for these characters, you know, is that they go off and they have adventures together.
I remember that being one of like the first things we started talking about getting to this point, you know, with Church and Carolina.
Well, this is their starting point, right? Like, so for these two characters where they are now this is literally all of their past. Even the stuff that was the present day story is now in their past. So this is for Carolina and Epsilon, who are essentially brother and sister in a way. They're both like offspring of the director. So here they are, this team now. They can go off together.
I like how it's almost like a mirror of the Master Chief Cortana relationship, just in reverse.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Yep. Yeah. So she's off as this, superpowered hero, and she has her AI counterpart, and
who's smart mouth
and at this point, I don't know if we'll tell their adventures. I mean, it might be fun to just have them go off, and they go off to correct some of the things they did wrong.
Is it going to turn out that Church has a smoking hot body?
Yeah, they'll get sexier and sexier as time goes on.
I love it.
Church, what are you doing? You don't need all that armor. You'll lose a couple of those pieces.
I gotta say, of all the little details in this scene, we talked about the cone and stuff in the background. I really like the way that you shot Caboose here, and Tucker being off screen.
Yeah, that was a decision we made on the fly when we were shooting this thing, because we had to get special permission to use it and go off site to shoot this, and it felt lonelier.
It does,
yeah.
And it really, you really feel invested in Caboose in that moment, and just like seeing Church through his eyes. It's a nice moment for Caboose.
Sniper rifle.
Monty, stop crying.
Tucker never got to use it.
I love that our emotional connection to the character is an instrument of death.
Hey, Red vs. Blue Season 10. Well, guys, you guys did an amazing job producing, directing, writing, everybody. It's been fantastic. This was a very transitional year for me, transitioning, like, handing off the reins for directing and writing, and the season turned out great. I can't thank you guys enough for all the hard work you're doing and will continue to do to get this thing out the door.
These credits.
Thanks for the opportunity.
that Brian put together. Amazing.
So Brian had to use, I think, 15 different 3D programs to get this done.
I think he used every 3D program.
Yeah.
He's one 4D program. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's right. He actually did.
Yeah.
He used a program called 4D.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, too, because he made this epic thing, and my first comment was, I don't like my picture.
But yeah, we really wanted to have an ending for Season 10 that kind of harkened back to those early opening sequences that we made for Blood Gulch that were so much fun, with the characters, but, bring out the cast a little bit and give everybody their due. So thanks to Brian for doing that, and it's just been a great year, and thanks to everybody for working so hard.
Yeah. Well, a lot of long hours. A lot of love went into it. So, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed Season 10. Hope you enjoyed 10 years of Red vs. Blue.
It's fun to make.
We have had an absolute blast making it so far.
Yeah.
Maybe next season will suck. I don't know. We'll be miserable. But we keep coming back to it, and I don't see any reason why we won't. What we always said is still holds true to this day, is if people keep watching it, we'll keep making it.
That's right.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys want to play Halo?
Thank you. Yeah, time to play Halo 4.
Yo, machine gun massacre, Battlestar Galactica. The world's going to shit, don't know who it is attacking you. Caving in fast like it's time to collapse on us. Better grab the Gatsaurus, curtains for the masses, son. Need everybody all in. You hear me, dogs falling? Lock, cock, ready to rock with no stalling. I see anybody playing games falling back. I'll put the first bullet in you myself. Believe that, this is war. I want enemy bodies on the floor, send kill shots straight to the head. I'll keep score, cause it's 1 for the soldiers and 2 for the assassins. Don't say a fucking word, all I wanna hear is blasting. These scatterbrain fucks wanna play with the real. I'm guaranteed to give them something they gon' feel, yo. So since you motherfuckers made the decision to set it, best believe that you won't live to regret it, yeah. edition, Red Man special. I'm sitting at the bar taking shots with the devil. That's why you can't fuck with the kid holding metal. If you say you need a break, I keep my foot on the pedal. Push the shit to red line, blow your fucking mind. Straight out your frontal lobe with these lethal ass rhymes. I can't contain myself, dog, stay outside the lines. Cause I think outside the box every motherfucking time. It's impossible to box me, cage me or stop me, block me. No, you fucking with Black Rocky, light skinned Zulu. Can't stop my charge, Millennium Malcolm. Damn, I goes hard, this is murder. Somebody call the feds to come get him. Cause real talk, man, ain't nobody fucking with him. You getting what you asked for, cause this is what you chose. Think you setting up shop, watch me bring it to a close.